Hello everyone, welcome to What If Issei Had the Powers of All Four Most Powerful Otsutsukis Part 1. Before we start, please go support Kokabiel13 for writing that awesome fanfic. Now let's begin. This is the translated version I made. There will be some wrong he or she calling here because it's translated, so let me clear this. Issei is a male in this story. Heir of what? The young man with brown hair was on the ground with a deep wound in his belly. Looking ahead, he met the arrogant smile of that fallen angel who was quick to speak. If you want to blame someone, blame God who put that sacred gear in you. This bracelet will be a beautiful memory of our date. After that, he left, leaving the brown-haired boy mortally wounded. However, another brown-haired boy a year older ran towards him desperately. "Issei, please hold on, Butchu is on the way," said the older brown-haired boy. "Kunai-san, I can't anymore," said Issei, falling unconscious due to lack of blood. "No, Issei, resist, damn it," Ku said as a magic circle appeared in his left ear. "Butchu, hurry up, my brother is dying," he said as a beautiful Redeed in her Kuo Academy uniform appeared in a magic circle. "I'm here, Ku," he said as he applied healing magic to the younger brown-haired boy. "He's in danger, I need your help." Ku immediately summoned the boosted gear and transferred part of his power to the Redeed. While in the brown-haired man's subconscious, he was in the dark. However, suddenly four humanoid figures appeared in front of him, one of them with light brown skin and a red eye on his forehead and horns on the top of his forehead. His eyes were purple with 3 rings. The other had long white hair reaching to his middle back. He was similar to the other subject, except that this one did not have the eye on his forehead, and his eyes were light blue with a kind of whitish flower around the pupil dot. Another one had short brown hair that was spiked in a strange way. The last one was similar to the previous one, except that he had a ponytail down to his lower back and his eyes were red with 3 tomes around the pupil. The one with purple eyes spoke. "It's a pleasure to meet you, boy. I'm Hagoromo Otsutsuki, known in my world as the Sage of the 6 Paths and Bearer of the Rinnegan," the man said calmly. "I am Himura Otsutsuki, Hagoromo's brother. I am the bearer of the Tensegan," said the blue-eyed one. "I am Ashura Otsutsuki. I am the son of Hagoromo. I am the creator of ninjutsu and heir of Ninshu. I created the Senju clan and my descendants the Uzumaki clan," said the short-haired brown-haired man. "I am Indra Otsutsuki. I am Ashura's brother and creator of the Uchiha clan. My eyes are the Sharingan. Well, my name is Hyoudou Issei and well, I'm the younger brother of the Sekiryuite. I don't have any special powers," Issei said, laughing, embarrassed by the last thing. "I wouldn't say that, young man. After all, now that our world was destroyed by the ambition of some idiots, you have become the heir to our powers, mine and Himura's being the most difficult to handle." That threw the young brown-haired boy off balance quite a bit. "But why me? I mean, there are many people with much more potential like my brother," said the brown-haired boy sadly. "The last thing. You say there's someone with more potential than you," Himura said seriously, and then started laughing like crazy. "Hahaha, your magic reserves are immense, boy, and your affinity with the elements are all the existing ones. Apart from that, you know someone who on his deathbed doesn't he hate the one who killed him. Hahaha, ridiculous, boy. There's no one in this world like that more than you," boy said. Himura still laughing at that nonsense that Issei said, something that threw him off since he didn't even know that about him. "You really thought you were just an ordinary person? Hahaha, I wouldn't give the sharing to just anyone you know, and much less my power and knowledge. Hahaha, but I like you and you are powerful, so I will make you my heir, the heir of the Sharingan and my eternal Manjikyu Sharingan, but you can only use it if you train. You heard me," said Indra proudly. "I will make you my heir by granting you all my power and knowledge, especially that of the wise ones like that of the toads," said Ashura with a smile worthy of an Uzumaki. "Well, I'll give you the Byakugan, my power and my knowledge. If you train hard, you'll get the Tensegan, boy. I'll also give you the knowledge of the Hyuga clan and their fighting styles," said Himura. "And finally, I will give you my power and knowledge, and if you master the power of my 2 sons, you will obtain the Rinnegan and most likely the Rinne Sharingan. By mastering it and mastering my brother's Tensegan, you will obtain the powerful Jogan, which is the pinnacle of Dojutsu, you being the most powerful in your world," said Hagoromo calmly. When Issei was about to speak, a statue of a giant crimson pawn appeared in front of him, and then Issei began to expel a huge amount of power out of Issei's subconscious. Rias had reincarnated Issei because he did not improve and even died quickly, so she decided to use a common pawn of those she had left because Ku consumed 4 of her 5 mutated pawns, leaving her with only 3 regular pawns and a mutated pawn, as well as a rook, a bishop and a knight, so she chose to use a regular pawn. Seeing that this did not work, he tried with the tower, obtaining the same result, so in his mind he formulated the idea of using his last mutated piece, this being the pawn, so when using it and doing the ritual, it worked, but he did not imagine that by doing so, Issei would rise in the air and expel an absurd amount of power, but the instant the boosted gear came out, a voice came out. "Wow, buddy, the experiment with your dear little brother worked. It seems that you can double your magic reserves with the boosted gear and transfer them to someone else," said the dragon from the boosted gear. My little brother, Issei, you are now someone extremely powerful, I just need to train you, and you will be, along with me, the most powerful of demons, he said with joy and pride, while Rias was shocked by the power of her new pawn. Back to Issei's subconscious. The power stopped overflowing, but Indra smiled with joy as Issei activated the Sharingan from the shock of seeing his own power from her. Wow, I barely gave you my power and knowledge, and you already activated the Sharingan, hahaha, you are incredible, although no matter how much power you have, it doesn't mean you will get the Manjikyu just like that, he said with great pride. Boy, we'll be here for a while. You go wake up and then we'll talk, said Hagoromo, coming out of his stupor. Out of Issei's subconscious. Issei was lying on an armchair in the occult research club room while being watched by his older brother, who looked at him calmly, knowing that Issei was out of danger, although he still wanted to look for the fallen angel, who almost took his beloved younger brother from him, but when he looked at the younger brown-haired boy he saw that he woke up. Where am I? Asked Issei. In the occult research club room, how are you feeling, Issei? Rias asked curiously. Well, after being killed by my girlfriend and being reincarnated as a demon by the #1 idol of the Kuo Academy, and then realizing the enormous power that I didn't even know I had, well, I guess, said Issei, well everyone he smiled nervously since what the brown-haired boy said was true. You know we had no choice but to reincarnate you, I warned you not to go out with that girl, I told you she was a fallen angel, but you didn't listen to me, Ku scolded and then looked at him calmly, at least I didn't lose you little brother, said the long-haired brown-haired boy. Well, let me introduce you to the rest of the club, come in please, said Rias at the same time a black-haired girl with a ponytail that reaches her back and with an elegant demeanor entered to her left side, was a short white-haired girl. The curious thing about this was that one contrasted with the other, since one was an albino loli and the other a well-endowed young lady with black hair, so one was literally the opposite of the other. Behind these two a pair of young women with blonde hair were walking calmly. Nice to meet you, I'm Hyoudou Issei, Knight of Rias Gremory, said the young blonde man with grey eyes. I am Gaspar Vladi, Bishop of Rias Gremory, it is a pleasure, said the little blonde with red eyes. Hyoudou Kaneko, Tori, a pleasure the white-haired loli said monotonously. Imishima Akeno, Queen of Rias Gremory, it's a pleasure to meet you Issei, my cute cowhide, said Akeno in a seductive voice. Well, you already know who I am, Ku said gracefully. I'm Rias Gremory's pawn along with you since we're both her pawns, said the older brown-haired boy. I am Rias Gremory, your new master. It is a pleasure to finally meet you, Hyoudou Issei. The Redeed said happily. Now I will explain to you everything you need to know, Issei. And so Rias began to explain to him about her work as a demon, but Issei, upon learning about the supernatural from his older brother, had no trouble understanding it, since Ku had told his family a year ago that he was reincarnated as a demon and introduced them to his current partner, Rias Gremory. The Hyoudou family took it well when they learned that the family prodigy was someone important, not like Issei, whom his parents saw as useless, a fact that triggered Ku to secretly investigate how to increase magic reserves, and with the help of Drake he achieved it, and thus he transferred his power to his younger brother. Once the meeting ended, Issei and Ku returned to their house where they were greeted by their parents, and Ku told them what happened to Issei, which surprised them when they learned how powerful the younger brown-haired boy was, although unknown to them, Issei was more powerful than they believed. Issei went to his room and there on his bed he lay down and was taken back to his subconscious. Issei's subconscious. He was again in front of the Otsutsuki who looked directly at him. Issei, I must tell you that we regret not being able to train you properly, so you will have to do it yourself, since we will soon leave for the afterlife, so we want to say goodbye, said Hasuromo. Train hard and be proud to have our power, said Indra. Goodbye Issei, I left you some sealed scrolls in your arm, use them to summon the toads, said Ashura. See you young man, soon you will also be able to use the Byakugan and its techniques, said Hamura. Goodbye and thank you, said Issei watching as they disappeared. So you're the one who's going to be Argento, Cricky said to a huge nine-tailed fox. Just because father decided it I will do it, shouted a giant one-tailed sand raccoon. Stop shouting, Shukaku said to a huge cat of blue fire and black markings. What the hell was the only thing Issei said. Look, kid, I'm Kurama, and from now on, the 9 of us will be in charge of helping you train. Hey? Was the only thing Issei could say. Painful past. A few days have passed since Issei became a demon, and as expected from his brother, he wanted to go out and celebrate with the members of the occult club. The Hyoudou family are better known as the Hyoudou clan, which was known in Japan as one of the few clans that still exist and maintain many of their customs. But in the supernatural world they are known for their fearsome strength, since most are born with great magic reserves except for Issei, and that was the fact that he was despised by his family and clan, except for Ku who loved his younger brother very much. When they found out that Issei was reincarnated as a demon, they did not take it very well, since it would discredit the Hyoudou clan for its weakness and would cause inconvenience to the Gremory clan of the Underworld. Issei the next day trained hard with his Bijuus, which were brutal in their training, but Issei managed to master a chakra tail, which was Shukaku's, which although he hated humans, Issei began to like him because it reminded him of his last inch Kriki, who suffered a lot, but he was not the only Biju that Issei felt identified with his previous carriers, as was the case of Jimei, the seven-tailed Biju. He remembered Fu with a certain sadness in his gaze, as did Kurama, since he saw the moment of death of his carrier whom he respected. All week Issei trained hard some jutsu that Hagoromo left in his mind and practiced with his Sharingan, that when seeing it both Ku and Rias believed it was his sacred gear, which was wrong, since Issei in his training awakened his sacred gear, which was the adaptive armlet, which was a golden bracelet in the shape of a hexagon that went on the left arm, which could summon or adapt to any type of weapon. It should be said that the Bijuus recommended him to summon the 7 swords of mist and keep them carefully in his room, since they were quite striking, and they did not want the clan to take them away from Issei, although most likely Samahata would bite them, but not having chakra would steal their magic power. Well, at this moment Issei was walking alone towards the Kuo Academy while thinking about how to continue training harder because he wanted to awaken the Byakugan so he could use the skills that Hamura left him and get stronger faster, but he was taken out of his thoughts when I heard someone fall. "Ah, why do I always fall?" said a beautiful blonde with emerald eyes dressed like a nun. "Are you okay?" Issei asked doubtfully as he approached to give her her hand and get her up. "Yes, thank you very much," she said, but a light wind blew away her veil, revealing her beautiful and innocent face. Issei quickly reached for the veil and handed it to her, making her smile and thank her for her help. It was nothing after that. Issei thought about how to continue the conversation with the blonde. I'm lost and I need help," said the blonde with a smile. "And are you traveling?" Issei asked. "Oh, I'm not traveling, I was transferred to the church in the city," said the happy blonde. "Oh, I see," the brown-haired boy replied. "I'm glad I found a person as kind as you, it must be divine help," said the nun with great happiness. "Divine help? I don't even let you train," Issei shouted Shukaku. "Don't shout, idiot, Issei, do what you have to do but don't forget the training," answered Kurama calmly. It must be said that Issei smiled, but deep down he wanted to put the Bijuus in a Sharingan Jinjutsu to make them shut up, or rather just Shukaku. "Is something wrong?" the nun asked. At that moment a child began to cry, so the nun ran to him and said, "T cry, it's just a scratch, remember that you're a man," he said lovingly as a pair of rings appeared in his hands and a greenish aura surrounded them, healing the boy's wound. "Look, your wound has disappeared," said the nun kindly. "Oh, thank you very much, An-chan," said the boy, but she didn't understand anything. "He's thanking you," said the brown-haired boy. The nun stroked her hair as she stood up to continue along the path alongside the chestnut tree. "I guess I surprised you," said the blonde nun. "A little, you have an impressive power," said the brown-haired boy. "It's a wonderful power granted by God," she said happily, but then put on a sad face and muttered, "Yes, a wonderful power," but then she heard a growl that scared her and she turned to see Issei blushing and touching his stomach. "Oh, I'm sorry I scared you, haha, I think I'm hungry, do you want to go eat this?" said the brown-haired boy. "My name is Asia Argento, please call me Asia," she said happily. "I'm Hyoudou Issei, tell me Issei, let's eat," said the brown-haired boy happily, so that the nun agreed and they began to walk. "Issei-san, I'm glad I met someone so kind as soon as I arrived in Japan," Asia said happily. "Wow, haha, I'm going to be embarrassed," said the brown-haired boy with sadness. After a while Issei and Asia arrived at a family restaurant where Issei ordered 2 hamburgers. When they brought them to him, Asia looked at her questioningly without knowing what to do. "Hey Asia-chan," said Issei. "Yes, what's wrong?" the blonde asked doubtfully. "This is how you eat it, little princess," said the brown-haired boy as he took the hamburger in his hands and took a bite. "I had no idea there was a way to eat like that, it's amazing," said the blonde as she imitated what Issei did by taking the hamburger with her hands and taking a small bite. "It's delicious," she said excitedly. "Asia," he said, drawing her attention. "Let's have fun today before we get to church," said the cheerful brown-haired boy. "Oh, you're playing and you deserve a break," said Matatabi happily. "Hi," Asia said happily. A while later we see Asia and Issei playing all kinds of games in the arcades until they pass by a claw machine where there were many stuffed animals, especially one of a yellow mouse from a certain somewhat old TV series. "What's wrong?" Issei said with doubt. "Oh no, it's nothing," Asia said with embarrassment. "Do you like Raju?" asked a brown-haired boy. No, better said yes," she said somewhat embarrassed. At that moment Issei put a coin and easily took out the plush of said character. "It may not seem like it, but when we were kids, Mitsuda, Motohama and I, we emptied all the games in our block," he said, while handing her the stuffed animal. Thank you very much, this Rachu will forever commemorate my friendship with you, said Asia very happily, while Issei felt very happy inside. It had been a long time since he had had so much fun with someone, since the Hyoudou clan constantly forbade it. From there they went to a public fountain where Issei bought some canned sodas for both of them. This is the most fun thing I've ever had in my life, Asia said with great happiness. Yes, I too have almost never been able to come here to have fun, then Issei put on a sad face and whispered, almost never. This was noticed by Asia, but she didn't say anything. Asia, can I tell you something? The brown-haired boy asked with doubt, and she agreed, come on, let's go to a place where we can talk in private, and so they walked to another fountain where almost no one went. While sitting on a bench in the place, Issei looked at her and began to tell her about her life. You know, Asia, I haven't had a very happy life. Let's say this caught the blonde's attention. You see, I was born into a clan that has existed for centuries, the Great Hyoudou clan, which is quite strict. As if that were not enough, I was the second son of my family, being born just a year after my older brother, who a few years after being born showed exceptional abilities in almost everything: martial arts, use of knives, sports, mathematics, in short, a genius in everything. This made Asia put on a sad face, since she knew where Issei was going to go. He stood out in everything but me, I didn't stand out in anything as much as him. Even when they discovered my low magic reserves, they decided to expel me from the clan, but my brother stopped them. Even so, I have been humiliated and ridiculed by the entire clan, except for my brother who has always taken care of me. Issei at that moment shed tears. They never let me have friends, but I still ran away to play with Mitsuda and Motohama. Although later I will be severely punished for leaving, he said in a sad tone of voice. They always called me a failure, he said as tears fell down his cheeks. That's why today has been such a wonderful day, since I have met someone as wonderful as you, he said with a smile, although deep down, you could see the pain. Asia was crying quite sadly, so she decided to tell him about her life. Shortly after I was born, my parents abandoned me in front of a church in a small village in Europe. Someone found me crying and that's where I was raised. Then, when I turned 8, an injured little dog came into the church. I prayed for him with all my power, and then a miracle happened. After that, they took me to a big church where the injured and sick came from all over the world to be healed by my prayers. Helping people, she said in a happy tone, but then she put on a very sad face. Issei-san, but before she could speak, she was interrupted by someone else. So here you were, Asia said to a black-haired girl with black wings, which Issei recognized in an instant, activating his Sharingan. Hey, so you were reincarnated as a demon, Issei, she said in a mocking tone. What do you want, fallen angel? Issei said in a clear tone of hatred, while Asia was scared because she feared for her new brown-haired friend. Since you are merely a demon's pet, could you please refrain from hurting my ears with your filthy voice? This annoyed Issei, while Kurama and Shukaku began to get angry since they related Issei to their previous Jinchuriki. You're in the way, said the fallen angel, while holding a spear of light. This time I will make sure that you are completely destroyed, she said arrogantly. Issei's Sharingan was spinning slowly, so the fallen one noticed it and mockingly said. That sacred gear is garbage and it won't help you against me, said the fallen one. Give me Asia so I can take her home. No, I won't let you take my friend, he said furiously as he began to summon the Kubikirabacho. But from one moment to the next, Asia had pushed him to the ground, and when he turned around he saw something that completely destroyed him, since Asia was pierced by a spear of light in the stomach and fell to the ground of her wounded. Idiot, you hurt her, you were supposed to kill him. Now we'll lose his sacred gear and we won't be able to take it back, said another fallen man while looking at a fallen man dressed in a dark blue trench coat. It's not my fault, the stupid nun pushed him and got in the way of the attack, the fallen man excused himself. Asia, hold on, said Issei while applying medical ninjutsu. I will save you, Asia, I swear, he said in tears. I was so happy that we were friends even for a short time, Asia said very awkwardly. What are you talking about? There are still places I want to take you, to Karag, to the amusement park, he said in tears while the fallen laughed at this. I wish I had been born in this country and gone to school with you, that would have been nice, said the blonde almost without strength. Come on, go to school with me, I'll find a way for you to get into my classroom, said the brown-haired boy in tears and with a broken voice. They're crying for me, I'm so grateful, thank you, she said, and then closed her eyes. Asia, he said with a broken voice as his Sharingan began to spin rapidly. Why did you have to die, he said as he got up from the ground. Asia, he shouted sadly as his Sharingan changed shape. Inject your Sharingan. Asia, he said with a broken voice as his Sharingan began to spin rapidly. Why did you have to die, he said as he got up from the ground. Asia, he shouted sadly as his Sharingan changed shape. Suddenly I looked at one of the fallen angels, more specifically the one in a suit, and said. Amaterasu and immediately ignited in black flames as she screamed in pain at being burned alive. Then she looked at the little blonde dressed as a gothic Lolita, and from one moment to the next, she appeared next to her with a kubikirabacho in hand and decapitated her on the spot so that her Sharingan began to spin violently and change shape. He looked at the fallen man in the black trench coat and said Kamui, and suddenly a strange whirlpool formed on the neck of the fallen man and suddenly he disappeared, dropping his head and body to the cold ground while again Issei's Sharingan changed shape again. I looked at Raynare and said Tsukiyomi, and instantly she fell to the ground while holding her head and screaming. Suddenly Rias and Ku arrived at the place. "Issei, are you okay?" Ku asked, but he was shocked to see his brother's eyes. "What is that?" he asked with doubt. "Manjikyu Sharingan, the evolution of my eyes," he said to change his eyes shape again, and Raynare stopped screaming as Issei approached her silently. "Issei, wait, what are you going to do?" Ku said, but as a response he only received. "Finish her," he said with hatred in his voice as his eyes returned to normal for a few seconds. Then he took the shape of Shikaku's eyes as sand appeared around him and then surrounded Raynare as the sand lifted her into the air and said sand coffin to imprison her, and she screamed in pain while Rias looked sadly at the nun on the ground and a thought crossed her mind but was overshadowed when Issei shouted sand burial, and a shower of sand with blood and black feathers hit the place, implying that the fallen one had died. "Don't touch her, senpai," said Issei as his eyes took the shape of the Manjikyu Sharingan. And he said, "Izanagi," and instantly the nun's body disappeared to reappear alive next to Issei, while Issei's left eye went blind, but it only changed to another Manjikyu Sharingan recovering his sight. "But what?" Rias said in confusion, as were Ku and Asia who remembered having died. Issei's eyes returned to normal and then said, "I have used one of the abilities of my Manjikyu Sharingan, the Izanagi, which in exchange for the sight of one of my Sharingan, allows me to change reality, but it seems that if I change my Manjikyu Sharingan, I can regain my sight," he said with an unusual seriousness in the Issei sense, said Asia, hugging him. "Are you okay?" said Asia, looking into his eyes with concern. Issei couldn't continue with that attitude when he saw Asia. For some reason his heart beat hard and it didn't help that Matatabi made fun of that. "Yes, I'm fine, Asia-chan," Issei said with a genuine smile as he hugged her with great joy, but a comment from Rias worried them. "Issei, doesn't it hurt you to come into contact with the cross on his chest?" Rias asked while Ku was worried. "No, should I?" Issei asked with doubt. "Issei, demons cannot touch sacred objects, much less if they have been blessed like that cross. Just touching it should cause you immense pain and harm," Rias said worriedly. Issei took the cross with his hand, but he didn't feel anything, but Kurama solved his doubt. "The chakra protects you from damage, so you will not suffer any effects with sacred elements such as swords or spears of light," said Kurama in his mind. "It seems that I am immune to the holy elements," Issei said simply while Asia used her twilight healing on Issei, trying to heal him so that he would not suffer, and this was seen by Rias, but Issei hurried up and spoke, "I will not let Asia be reincarnated into a demon. Neither you nor anyone else," Issei said with Kurama's eyes and voice intimidating everyone, but his eyes returned to normal to look at Asia in his arms. "I swear that I will protect you, so stay by me side forever," Issei said, blushing Asia and earning a mockery from Matatabi and Jiki, while his brother smiled mockingly. "They grow up so fast, don't they?" Rias Ku said, embarrassing Issei and Asia and earning a laugh from Rias. "Let's go to the club after we clean this up," Rias said as she used magic to erase the remains of the fallen angels. Already in the club room, in fact, occultism Kiba was impressed by the Kubikirabacho, since the sword was incredible in his own words. For her part, Akeno kept bothering the younger brown-haired boy and the nun with teasing about how cute they looked together, while the blonde blushed heavily, although in fact being with the brown-haired boy who had just met him and feeling so safe in his arms made her feel happy, and in fact her small and innocent heart was beating strongly. For Issei, she looked beautiful like that, and it didn't help that Matatabi made fun of it, although Shukaku said that Issei was wasting his time and should once and for all start training so as not to go through something like that again, something that Issei was a little saddened, but nothing that a few words of encouragement from Kurama won't fix. For her part of her, the white-haired girl looked at the nun with curiosity while she tied her sweets of her and felt like hugging her because of how tender the nun looked due to her slight blush of her. Everything was calm until Ku spoke. Issei Ku spoke with a firm voice, "For nothing in the world should the Hyoudou clan know about your ocular abilities or your sword. Knowing the elders of the clan, they will try to take it away from you at all costs along with your eyes," he finished with clear concern, but was stupefied by the response of his dear younger brother. "Let them try it," said the younger brown-haired boy, activating his Sharingan at 3 commas, "although I do not recommend it because they will know the power of the Sharingan at its maximum expression," he finished saying with Kurama's voice, which scared them a little, but the nun hugged Issei and said, "Calm down, Issei-san, violence doesn't solve anything," said the blonde affectionately. "You're right, Asia-chan," Issei said more calmly. Ice, for now she can stay at my house or Akeno's because I doubt your clan will want to accept her, but don't worry, she will come to the academy to study, said the happy Reteed next to Ku, while he acknowledged at what the Reteed said. As long as Asia is safe everything will be fine, Issei said calmly. I'm going to go to school with Issei-san, what a joy, said the blonde with so much happiness that it didn't fit in her small and innocent heart. The brown-haired boy hugged her with happiness, and she reciprocated it. For now, Issei, Ku said, drawing Issei's attention, I'm going to train you, since I need you to become much stronger and learn to handle your power better, the brown-haired boy said clearly, while Shukaku celebrated the joy of knowing that Issei would start training. And when will we start? Asked the younger brown-haired boy. Now he sentenced with a deep voice and an intimidating aura, while Shukaku was happy and Jiki along with Xiaomei said that Issei was resting in peace, while Matatabi told him that he would take the nun and have another romantic date, although he did it more than anything to annoy the younger brown-haired boy. Wait, let me regain my energy, said Issei, but he was pulled by his brother and Rias while they looked serious, and Issei realized that he would not be saved from this training, so he did the most prudent thing he could think of, Kamui, and disappeared in a vortex of the place, leaving everyone shocked. Issei, you will not escape from your training, shouted Ku quite annoyed as he made his armor appear and flew through the window of the occult club and disappeared into the city sky, using a concealment spell so as not to be seen by anyone. Issei-san, Asia said as she felt herself being dragged by him to a portal next to the Kubikirabacho, while Issei smiled victoriously. They will never beat the Sharingan, hahaha, laughed the younger brown-haired boy as he disappeared from the place again. It's hidden in the academy gym near the pool, Butchu, said Kaneko. We caught him before, Ku-senpai, said the blonde swordsman. Please do it, said the Reteed lazily. The members of the occult club began to search for the chestnut for the rest of the day until Ku took him by force to train. The family member and the phoenix. Lying on the ground we can see a chestnut tree that is quite beaten and very exhausted, and to its right another chestnut tree standing with a firm look. Bed up, lazybones, who told you that you could rest? Said Ku, somewhat annoyed. Nice, and I can't anymore, said Issei, while in his mind Kurama, Shukaku, Jiki and Matatabi encouraged or insulted him to stand up, which worked because Issei stood up clumsily, while Ku launched himself at him and tried to hit him with great force, while Issei dodged and hit him in the belly, but was soon thrown away by a kick to the head given by Ku himself. Issei, get up already, said Ku, annoyed, although deep down he didn't feel like it, but he had to train his little younger brother hard to make him physically stronger. A few seconds later he noticed that the blow left him unconscious. Damn, I went too far, said the older brown-haired boy quite embarrassed. We have to be tough with him in his training for when we face Riser, said Rias seriously. Issei's mind space. We can see an annoyed Kurama watching Issei on the ground of the place. Issei, we will give you access to our power, said Kurama quite annoyed. Make him kick your brother's ass, said Kurama, while the other Byajas agreed. At that moment Issei stood up with a serious face and then put on an evil smile. Outside Issei's mind space. Ku was heading towards Issei to carry him when he felt a brutal increase in power in Issei. As he stood up, from Issei's back a raccoon-like tail made of sand appeared and he launched himself at Ku while he invoked the boosted gear scale mail, because Drake suggested it because of the power that Issei was giving off at that moment. Soon his instincts warned him to get away from where he was, and he did not hesitate to do so, watching as Issei formed a sand claw and almost crushed him. Suddenly a tail of blue fire with black details formed on Issei's back, scaring Ku because his little brother increased his power even more. Rias watched as Ku dodged blue fireballs and sand spikes with ease, but was alarmed to see a grey, robust tail appear from Issei's back and then begin to launch water attacks and a kind of coral, although she did not understand what was happening to her pawn, as he became extremely aggressive and was even more scared when she saw a fourth tail appear from his back. It was red and looked like a gorilla's, and she could see how Issei now also used lava attacks, while Ku increasingly took the fight a little more seriously. Suddenly Issei roared like a beast as a fifth tail appeared on his back, this being a white tail, so that suddenly Issei launched a steam attack, managing to hurt Ku a little, who was beginning to get excited about the fight that his brother was giving him, since he took out his fourth tail, his blows were better directed, and with the fifth tail his strength increased more. Suddenly a sixth white and somewhat viscous tail appeared on Issei's back of him, who began to throw balls of acid and corrosive gas, which scared Ku, since he thought Issei wanted to kill him. Don't worry Ku, if I killed you I'll just need to use Izanami, so let me kill you for hitting me so hard and humiliating me for 2 weeks of hard and fatal training, he roared angrily, as a seventh tail appeared being green and similar to that of an insect. Issei seemed to not stop at anything, so an octopus tentacle and an orange fox tail, while Issei began to hit Ku, who was already on the ground, while Issei hit him with the various tails and the octopus tentacle. Ku he broke free and began to charge increases, implying that he was taking the fight seriously. "Take this Issei, dragon shoot," said Ku, but saw how Issei made a strange sign with his hands making a cross, and after that there were 9 Issei each with a different tail, and they all began to carry a strange purple sphere, while red and blue particles gathered in it, while the 9 Issei said at the same time. Ajuadama throwing the sphere and it hit Ku causing a cloud of smoke, while 8 of the 9 Issei disappeared and the tails too leaving Issei very exhausted. Ku emerged from the cloud of smoke with his balance breaker barely damaged, but with a satisfied smile. At that moment Asia arrived, and seeing Issei unconscious, she began to heal him very carefully, although she was surprised to see that he began to heal himself very quickly. After a while the younger brown-haired boy woke up in the research club room and hit it right in the blonde's lap, which made him blush slightly, but he knew how to hide it, although the fact that Matatabi made fun of him for it didn't help much. For his part Ku was intrigued by his brother's power since those strange tales, and that power hurt him slightly, although he was impressed by the fact that he achieved it, given his level not many could hurt him, so a feeling of pride for his brother occurred in him. Rias for her part of Ella was worried about seeing her recent pawn of Ella demonstrate that level of power. He would undoubtedly be stronger in the future, and that made her happy, since her little brother-in-law was very important to her, as well as to Ku. Everyone was relaxed when a magic circle appeared in the room, and everyone stood on guard, and Issei put Asia behind him while activating his Sharingan. A blonde man with an arrogant smile came out of the circle. He was Riser Phoenix. He walked until he was in front of Rias and said. "And finally you have a date for the raiding game. I want to fight you now, Rias." Then I started to look at Issei. "Interesting ability. When I beat your master, I'll train you and use you in my next raiding game. Haha, I can't wait." That bothered Issei. "We are ready whenever you want, Riser. I still can't believe that you refused to break the commitment just to have a fight against my pieces," Rias said with annoyance. "What can I say? I love fighting with powerful people. You know, my dream is to be the most powerful in the underworld, and your boyfriend is the one I have to defeat to be able to face your cousin. Haha, you're always surrounded by powerful people, you know," she said excitedly. "Anyway, send us the date of the meeting when you're ready. Remember, you're facing an immortal." She said that as she disappeared into a magic circle. Rias looked upset since he had only committed to her to fight Ku and that he took it seriously. Asia was terrified that something bad would happen because before that guy left, she gave him a look and smiled evilly. Issei soon began to emit his chakra around him as he took the form of a fox and the pupil of his Sharingan would tear as the 3 commas slowly rotated. "I'm going to crush him," said Issei, and that baffled everyone. He dared to look at my Asia like that, he said with annoyance, while the blonde blushed quite a bit and Ku looked at him with a smile. "I-san," she said, all blushing. Issei, seeing her, stopped emitting his chakra and deactivated his Sharingan, seconds later remembering what he said and blushing quite a bit. Matatabi, Jiki and Sun began to make fun of him, while Kurama and Shukaku complained about how slow he was. Bakendo approached Issei and said to him. Ara, how bold of you, Issei-kun, to say that Asia-chan is yours." Yufufu Akeno laughed gracefully, while Ku laughed at that since he loved to mess with the couple, since Issei saved Asia. I just remembered that you need to get a familiar, Issei, and tonight we will go to the familiar forest," Rias said with a smile. On the night of that day, Issei was talking to the Bijuus about having a familiar, so Kurama offered to go out when no one was looking to be his familiar, so he wouldn't have to search so much and not waste time. Rias prepared the circle so that Asia could accompany them since she was not part of the entourage and she was not supposed to go, but Issei warned that he would use the kamui if necessary, but he would take Asia with him. After everyone entered the magic circle, they were transported to the forest of the familiars, and without anyone noticing, Kurama came out of Issei's body in the form of a small one-tailed fox, so Issei intended to find him and make the contract with him, but they did not expect that a small blue dragon stood on Asia's shoulders, and the familiar trainer said that the dragon chose her, so even if she was not a demon she could do the ritual and stay there, since the small dragon would not move away from her until she formed the ritual, so they taught Asia how to do it, and after being made into a small dragon, she flew until she was in front of Issei and then prepared an attack, but it was enough to put it in a genjutsu of the Sharingan for it to know who is in charge. Upon returning to the club, Kurama lay down on Issei's legs and fell asleep, apparently wanting to stay out of it as much as possible, and being the only normal-looking Bijuu, the others reluctantly accepted. Battle versus the Phoenix. Issei was preparing for the fight against the Phoenix, since today would be the day of the fight to free Rias Gremory from her commitment. Asia was very nervous as she did not like the fact that Issei was fighting against someone who was known as immortal. Issei had tried to convince her that they would not lose, but the green-eyed blonde cared a lot about her beloved Issei. Rias, even though she knew Riser Phoenix's power level, wasn't worried at all because she knew how powerful Ku was. It was N''T for nothing that the Underworld Demon Council feared him, even his brother was reluctant to fight him. Who was eager to see how long Riser would last in battle against him, since being considered immortal, he would be a good opponent, although he considered letting Issei fight him, and if Issei couldn't defeat him, he would face him, although he trusted that his brother would defeat the Phoenix. Everyone was in the occult club room, some nervous, others very calm. Issei was in his mental space talking to the Biduous since they wanted to inform him of something, and it was that after his hard training, he had awakened the first phase of Himura's power, the mythical Byakugan. The magic circle appeared in the place where a silver-haired maid looked at all the members of the Gremory clan in Asia as she would accompany the Citri clan to observe the fight. "They are ready, my friend," said the maid. "We are ready, Grafia," said Rias seriously. "Well, I'll be the referee in this raiding game, so I just have to wish you luck," said Grafia, while everyone in the Gremory clan teleported to the battlefield, which was a combat arena where Riser Phoenix's nobility and himself were waiting for them. "I am Grafia, Queen of Surzich's Sama. I will be the referee in this raiding game, which will be a 1 versus 1 combat. Each king will send a piece of his nobility to combat, regardless of the level of the opponent or the rival piece. Each piece will fight, except for a Phoenix Riser Bishop. Only until the last piece falls will the king be able to fight. The Phoenix tears will be distributed 3 for each entourage, so they can only be healed a maximum of 3 times. Regenerative abilities are exempt from this rule, as well as the use of sacred gear, so if any member of any team has an ability or sacred gear of that type, they can only heal themselves and not their companions. Each king has an electronic tablet where they must select the piece they wish to send, and only until the start of said combat will the pieces that will enter combat be revealed. All weapons, sacred gear, or special abilities are authorized for lethal use. However, the battlefield has a system of expulsion from the raided game, so that unnecessary deaths will be avoided at all costs. "That's all and good luck to both sides. You have 5 minutes to decide the first match," announced Grafia. "Good," said Rias, while on the electronic tablet you could see all of her pieces. "You go," she said, selecting one of them. Riser for his part of him saw the menu where his pieces of him were displayed, so when he looked at Rias he said, "Well, I know Rias, and I know who to send, so you will go," said the blonde, selecting one of his girls. "Well, the battle will be between Kaneko Taojo, Rias Gremory Tower, and Shulin, Riser Phoenix Tower. Please enter the battlefield, combatants." But that said, both Kaneko and Shulin went down to the battlefield where they stood 4 meters away. "Begin," Grafia declared. Author's note: Round 1, ready, go. Kaneko rushed into battle trying to hit Shulin, but she dodged easily and counterattacked with kung fu techniques. Shulin lit her legs on fire as she attacked ferociously, kicking Kaneko in her stomach, sending her flying 2 meters away, but managing to stabilize in the air. Kaneko decided to get serious, so she pulled out her Nekomata Irizan tail to try to attack with Senjutsu-infused blows. Author's note: Ku helped Kaneko accept herself as such, as well as Akeno, since he has been in Ria's entourage for a year. Kaneko moved at a speed greater than she had a moment ago, far surpassing Shulin's speed, managing to hit her in the forehead, causing her to fly into the air, barely managing to stabilize herself and cover herself in time from another blow from Kaneko, managing to connect a kick to the Nekomata's chest, affecting her slightly. Shulin began to attack with a series of kicks to Kaneko, while she dodged said attacks, so she gave her a punch in the face, followed by another punch in the belly to finish with an uppercut, managing to defeat Shulin. Shulin Phoenix Riser Tower can no longer continue, the winner is Kaneko, Grafia announced as Shulin was teleported out of the place. NDA. Winner is Kaneko. Cough 97 sound effects. Riser was not even affected by the defeat, while Kaneko hit her ears and tail. Rias took the tablet while the rest congratulated the little tower, who thanked him for the praise. Riser for his part only selected another of his pieces while waiting for Ria's turn, who had already selected the next participant. The next fight will be between Hyoudou, Knight of Rias Gremory, against Carloman, Knight of Riser Phoenix. Let's begin. NDA. Round 2, ready, go. Okay, it's the last one, I swear. Both knights shook hands and made an oath of a fair battle to take distance, and suddenly 2 blurs were seen on the field, accompanied by several sparks from each clash of swords, until Kiba's sword broke in front of Carloman's, so he quickly created another one of ice, and with it, he continued the fight, managing in a distraction to destroy Carloman's sword, so she took out a pair of daggers but the fire and wind that these caused managing to destroy Kiba's sword, so he created another more powerful than the previous one. You handle your sacred gear very well, and I must say that having the sword breath is a great advantage. As a rival horse I recognize you, but this must end, said Carloman to take out another sword from her magic space and launch herself against Kiba, but he only smiled, and suddenly Carloman saw herself dodging swords that came out of the ground, so in the end they managed to pierce her legs and arms while she was teleported out of the battlefield. Carloman, Knight of Riser Phoenix, cannot continue, the winner is Hyoudou. Rias and Riser exchanged glances and then selected other participants as if they knew who the other was going to send. Asper Vladi, Rias Gremory's bishop versus Mihi, Riser Phoenix's bishop, begin. Mihi was about to use a spell, but stood still after Gasper used his shadows of her managing to injure her and quickly take her out of the fight since he did an ''T-like violence. Mihi's bishop of Riser Phoenix can't continue, the winner is Gasper Vladi. After that, Rias looked at Issei for a second before making her decision, so she selected him for her next fight. Hyoudou Issei, Rias Gremory's pawn, versus Burent, Riser Phoenix's pawn, let's begin. Burent launched himself directly at Issei, who simply made a few hand positions and said. Suitin. 1,000 water projectiles, said Issei, while many water projectiles came out of his mouth attacking Burent, who could barely dodge a few, being somewhat injured, but it did not end there. Kajibunshin no Jutsu, and 3 Issei appeared who approached Burent and surrounded her to shout Raiden. 1,000 electric impacts, the 3 clones hit her lightly so that she screamed in pain when she felt the electricity surround her. Burent pawn of Riser Phoenix retreats. Issei returned to where his team was, however Riser was already getting bored, so he communicated directly with Rias using a magic circle. Rias, this is boring. I challenge your tower, your knight and your queen against me, of course if you are not afraid of losing, he said mockingly to provoke Rias, who, seeing her pieces and nodding them, affirming that they wanted to fight, accepted. Okay Riser, but don't regret it later, said the Retid confidently. Hiba, Kaneko, Akeno, leave this in my hands, I challenge you to a battle with all your pieces and you against me, said Issei with a smile. Wait Ice, that's too risky, it's true that you've become stronger, but you can't win. Aku was interrupted by Issei. I hope he is strong enough to resist my new abilities and techniques, so leave him in my hands, or what do you say, Phoenix? Issei said to Riser, who looked excited. If you have more techniques than what you have demonstrated, I want to see it directly and without interruptions. In fact, let's make a bet. If I win, we'll exchange pieces so that you can be part of my entourage. But if you win, I'll agree to whatever you ask for, the Phoenix said enthusiastically. Deal, said the brown-haired boy, going down to the battlefield despite Rias and Ku's refusals for that fight. Once face to face with only 10 meters separating them, Grafia made the announcement. Hyoudou Issei, Rias Gremory's pawn, against Riser Phoenix, third son of the Phoenix house, let's begin. After that Riser looked directly at Issei, who was patiently waiting for an attack from the blonde. Attack me, I'm waiting, said the brown-haired boy seriously. Far from angry Riser, this excited him, so he created a gigantic ball of fire and threw it at the brown-haired boy, who seemed to have no intention of dodging, so the ball seemed to hit him. However, they saw how a dome of blue energy which rotated around the brown-haired boy protected him, and when it dissipated, they noticed that the brown-haired boy's eyes had changed, but they were not those strange red eyes. Who even thought that Issei had gone blind from the fire because his eyes were pearl-colored and the veins stood out around them, however before saying anything he heard Issei scream. Byakugan as the veins around his eyes bulged out more. Then he advanced towards Riser, who got excited and he launched himself against him, but the brown-haired boy began to hit him with the palms of his hands and began to say. 8 trigrams. 64 palms, increasing the speed, and he began to feel weak to the point that when he finished receiving the attacks, he fell to his knees on the ground. Riser began to laugh with excitement as he felt that he could not use his regenerative magic. This is great, you have managed to suppress my magic, but still you have not defeated me, saying that he hit the brown-haired boy in the stomach, throwing him away, but then he saw how one of the brown-haired boy's eyes turned into those red eyes that he saw him use the other time. He couldn't get more excited and threw himself with everything he could despite not being able to regenerate from his wounds. He got more excited, even the idea of losing seemed interesting to him if it was against a brown-haired boy, since that only motivated him to become stronger. Issei dodged it and formed a blue sphere that spun in his hand at very high speeds and shouted Rasengan and hit him, sinking him into the ground. Issei moved away from him a little and then saw Riser come out of the hole that had been made by the attack. He was quite injured, but he just looked at him and said. You are the first to defeat me, and that's why I admitted that you are stronger than me. Haha, I even feel like you held back, right? Riser said before falling completely unconscious without giving the brown-haired boy time to answer. Riser Phoenix can't continue, Hyoudou Issei wins the match, Rias Gremory has won the rating game, Grafia announced. The fight was over and Issei looked happy. After a while everyone including Riser's nobility were in front of the brown-haired boy. And what do you really want? The girls in my entourage, a future revenge your riches. Go ask me for whatever, said the blonde, but then he looked at him maliciously and said. I want that rook over there, the pawn that I defeated, and your bishop that did not participate when I became a high-class demon. They will be part of my entourage, however, now they will live with me in a house that you will buy separately. You will pay me 1,000,000 yen a month," said the brown-haired boy, but when he noticed that the blonde didn't stop smiling, he looked at him and said, "Well, I was expecting you to ask me for a territory in the underworld and hundreds of women, but if you ask for something so humble, at least I'll give you a mansion. Take care of my sister, Isabella and Burent, although I doubt anything will happen to them with you," he said, smiling. That disconcerted everyone present, including Riser's sister, but she didn't refute anything. On the other hand, Asia pulled Issei's left cheek for asking something like that. Well, Ku knew why he did that, and deep down it hurt. Once Riser gave him the address where the mansion would be, where his sister and the girls would be waiting for him. Once he arrived at the occult club room, he looked at Ku and said, "It's time, and I'm sorry Nai-san," said Issei to disappear with the Kamui and appear at the entrance of the Hyoudou clan. This path until he was in front of the members of the Council of Elders and his father to speak out loud. "I, Hyoudou Issei, renounce the Hyoudou clan and its surname. From now on, I will be Otsutsuki Issei. You do not renounce the clan, you are expelled from it, and you are prohibited from approaching the clan again, as well as using our surname," bastard sentenced Issei's father. Crossed swords. "I, Hyoudou Issei, renounce the Hyoudou clan and its surname. From now on, I will be Otsutsuki Issei. You do not renounce the clan, you are expelled from it, and you are prohibited from approaching the clan again, as well as using our surname," bastard sentenced Issei's father. "Haha, funny you say that," said the brown-haired boy with a smile and his eyes closed, but they lost this, saying that he opened his eyes, showing his Sharingan, the rotating copying eye. The mythical Sharingan, which allows me to copy any technique and combat style, not to mention that it also helps me predict my opponent's movements, and that's just its first state. Then this, he said, while the commas of his Sharingan spun rapidly and changed. "Magic Q Sharingan," said Issei, and then looked at an elder of the Tsukiyomi clan. After 3 seconds the elder fell unconscious, then looked ahead and said, "I already packed my things days ago, and I'm ready to leave now. Oh, and by the way, don't even think about sending someone after my head, or I could kill you, haha. In fact, only Nai-san can face me and believe me. He won't go after my head, so goodbye and see you never, you moron," saying that he left in a whirlpool made by the Kamui. The clan elders were stunned because if what those eyes said was true, they had lost a valuable member and therefore power. Issei's father was furious. That boy hid something of great value to the clan, and 1,000 ideas were already running through his mind to try to obtain those valuable eyes. Too bad you'll never get them. After leaving the clan area, he arrived at his new residence where Ravel Phoenix, Isabella and Burent were waiting for him. It must be said that the chestnut was impressed when he saw the mansion that the Phoenix gave him. "My brother asked me to give this to you," Ravel said, giving him a Palatine debit card. "In it, you will receive your monthly payment of 1,000,000 yen, and in fact you already have the first payment on it. We will be in your care, Hyoudou Issei-sama. Otsutsuki Issei, that's my current name. I was banished from the Hyoudou clan today, and call me Issei. In fact, you guys also call me Issei," he said while the girls acknowledged. Upon entering the Otsutsuki residence, he was shocked to see that all of this would be a lot, and even more so when he saw that there were maids from the Phoenix clan in the place, since they all wore the Phoenix clan shield on their uniforms. "Issei-sama, welcome to your residence, we will give you a tour of the place," said the maid. He followed her around the place until they finished guiding him through what would be her new home, or rather her first real home. After arriving at his room, he took out his things from his sealing scroll, including his 7 swords of mist, which he placed on a shelf and then went to sleep. The next day Issei, along with Ravel and Burent, who were wearing the academy uniform, and Isabella was also there, who was wearing her teacher's outfit. Upon arriving at his classroom, he gave his teacher a document that accredited his change of name and address. The class was surprised to learn that Issei left the Hyoudou clan, or rather was expelled. Some girls said that now he would no longer stain their senpai's name, while others felt bad for the brown-haired boy, although what was a surprise was the brown-haired boy's new last name. Later he was in the occult club with Kurama on his lap sleeping. Ku looked sad since the younger brown-haired boy left the clan, and his father wanted to force him to bring the brown-haired boy back, but he knew that his father only wanted the brown-haired boy's eyes. Rias comforted the older brown-haired boy since she knew how much that hurt him, but everyone knew that it was the best for the younger brown-haired boy. Asia was sitting next to the brown-haired boy while he told her that they could now live together in her mansion. She accepted, and at that moment something occurred to Rias. "Ice, would you let all the members of the occult club live in your new home?" The Redid asked, and the brown-haired boy just agreed, which made Ku happy since he had planned to move in with his little younger brother. Suddenly there was a knock on the door of the club, and Rias let Sona Citri in with her Queenella and 2 hooded women who gave off a sacred aura. "Rias, they have come to see you for a delicate matter," said Sona with her typical serious attitude. And tell me, why would a couple of church members look for a high-class demon? The Redeed asked. We came on a mission entrusted by the church since 4 of the 7 Excalibur swords were stolen by a fallen angel, said one of the hooded women. We have with us the Excalibur Mimic and the Excalibur Destruction, the ones that were stolen are Blessing, Transparency, Nightmare and Rapidity, said the other hooded woman. Ruler's whereabouts are unknown, however we have not come just for that, but to ask you, no, to demand that you do not interfere in our mission, said the one who spoke first. We will not interfere unless our territory is in danger, and under no circumstances we will ally ourselves with the fallen, said the Redeed calmly. Well, that's what I wanted to hear, we're leaving, said the hooded woman, but as she left she looked at Asia. I've had a doubt since I arrived, are you Asia Argento, the saint who became to heretic? She said, scaring Asia, who agreed, and to think that someone who was named a saint became a demon, well, nobody is perfect, but I have a doubt, do you still believe in God? She asked again. I believe and I will believe in him all my life, answered the blonde. In that case I'm going to kill you, God will forgive you. She couldn't finish because she had the Kubikirabacho on her neck and Issei had activated his Manjikyu Sharingan while he looked at her with fury. Asia is not a demon, however, you touch her and she kills you, he said in a deep voice, while Kurama stood next to Issei and looked at her angrily. Strong words for such a weak demon, said the hooded woman as she removed the top of her cloak, revealing a blue-haired girl with a green lock of hair. Say it without the edge of a sword on your neck, enough you and I duel outside right now, said the brown-haired man. Rias wanted to protest, but Kiba challenged the other hooded girl to a duel, so she had no choice but to accept. Once outside the occult club the battle began, the hooded women took off their cloaks, revealing a brunette with pigtails that both Issei and Ku recognized. She launched herself directly at Kiba who countered with his sword, masterfully demonstrating his ability as a knight, although anger was evident in his eyes, but not towards the brunette, but at the sword she carried. Issei attacked the blue-haired girl with the Kubikirabacho in her hands, but she summoned Hiramekure and began to surround her with chakra, and then it happened, Excalibur Destruction could not resist it and fractured slightly, scaring the blue-haired girl. Which Issei took advantage of to make about 5 cage bunch and end each one with the remaining missed swords, attacking the blue-haired girl who saw how finally, after colliding her Excalibur sword against Kubikirabacho it broke in two, and he saw how her neck was right in the circular part of the Kubikirabacho. You lost, anything to say? Said the brown-haired boy. What is the name of that sword? Asked the blue-haired girl. The decapitating sword Kubikirabacho, one of the 7 swords of the mist, said Issei. I will remember you, my name is Zenobia Corda and I hope to have another duel with you in the future, said the now identified Zenobia. It will be a pleasure, said the brown-haired boy removing Kubikirabacho from his neck. With Kiba the fight was quite strong, but he had the advantage, although when he saw that the Kubikirabacho destroyed an Excalibur, he decided to jump where Issei was who, seeing Kiba's intention, gave him his sword, while the blonde countered a vertical attack from the brunette, who saw how his sword fractured slightly, stopping and said. I admit my defeat, I am not skilled enough to continue, my name is Hyoudou Issei, what is yours? She asked somewhat excitedly. Hyoudou, survivor of the Sacred Sword Project and current knight of Rias Gremory, said the blonde calmly as he felt satisfied at having damaged an Excalibur, and he knew that with the others nearby, he would achieve his goal at any moment. Well, they won this time, but the brunette was silenced when Issei spoke. Well, now as compensation you will cooperate with us to stop whatever Kokabiel is planning, since I don't like some of this, said the Redeed. Well, it's a deal, said the blue-haired girl, but then she approached Asia and bowed. I'm sorry, what I said was inappropriate on my part. I hope you can forgive me. The blonde smiled and said. Don't worry Zenobia-san, everything is fine now, he said kindly, and being so close, Zenobia noticed the crucifix that the blonde had and noticed that in fact, she did not have a demonic aura, so she realized that the brown-haired boy had not lied to her. Then we leave for today. Tomorrow we will come to agree on what to do about Kokabiel's matter, said Zenobia, leaving with Irina, who said goodbye to Issei and Ku very emotionally. See you kunai-san, Issei-kun, he said, giving the brown-haired boy a kiss on her cheek, causing a pout of annoyance in the emerald-eyed blonde, making her pull Issei's cheek. Kokabiel. Issei was extremely uncomfortable since in his bed Burant, Ravel and Asia were sleeping in his bed. Asia slept happily on his left while Burant did so on his right, while Ravel did so on his chest, although what impressed him was seeing Kurama sleeping next to the bed in a small bed. Suddenly the door of the room opened and Ku came out who, looking at Issei, winked at him while holding his thumb up with a sign behind him that said you have become an adult, and left the room with a smile with tears of pride. Issei was incredulous because he didn't see it coming, even so, hearing the mockery of Matatabi and Jiki bothered him a little, although the smell of his room bothered him even more. Suddenly the memories of what happened that night hit him suddenly. Issei saw in Asia, Issei saw Mama's Burant, Issei saw Ravel. She immediately blushed and looked at the fox next to her bed, Ella, who was awake, and looked at him saying, "It's Matatabi's fault and his perversion of him, I had nothing to do with it, and when everything ended, by the way, it was heard throughout the house," Kurama told him quite seriously. "Matatabi, you'll see later," the brown-haired boy thought angrily, although he wouldn't deny that he liked what happened a little. After pushing the girls aside and taking a shower, he went down to the dining room where Rias avoided looking at him, and a very happy Ku was smiling and had the same sign behind him. Bakendo looked at him mockingly and said, "Ara, how active you were last night, Ice-kun. I hope the girls can walk well today, if it's as intense as I heard from my roomie Fufu." Issei turned quite red and turned to the side where Kaneko was, who looked at him and said, "Issei-senpai pervert," she said with blushing cheeks and a serious look. He looked away to where Kiba and Gasper were, who just smiled at him and raised a thumb. "Issei-senpai is great, I want to be a man like you," and Ku-senpai said little Gasper. "Gasper-kun, I don't think it's good for you to have a harem," Kiba said, smiling. At that moment Issei felt a pair of arms surround him and saw that it was Asia. "Ice-san, good morning," said the blonde, while giving him a leaky kiss and blushing all over behind her. Burent arrived and said, "Ice-sama, good morning," and repeated Asia's action, leaving the brown-haired boy very blushed to finish. Ravel did the same as the other two, but did not expect that when Isabella arrived, she would be accompanied by Riser, who upon seeing Issei smiled and raised his thumb to say, "I couldn't expect less from you, Issei." He then looked at his sister and said, "I hope to be an uncle soon, I already want to meet my nephews," he said with great joy. Isabella stood in front of Issei and said, "Issei-sama, I will wait for my turn today," she said, quite blushed, while her brown hair was still red like Ria's hair. After the morning event, Issei arrived at school with the others, and it must be said that Asia and Ravel were holding him by the arms and smiling a lot, so the reaction of the entire academy was to get upset, but seeing that Ku supported his brother's relationship, they decided to let it go, although Issei was embarrassed that his brother praised him all the time with words like, "You are the man, you are already a man, Issei, my little brother is now a full-fledged man, hahaha, he has already surpassed me in something." Things like that. Upon arriving at his classroom, he was bombarded with many questions about his relationship with the two blondes, but he didn't even bother to answer since Matatabi, Jiki, Sun, Shukaku, and Chimei were making fun of what happened as much as they could, even although I have heard Kurama's proud voice. After classes they met again with Zenobia and Irina, who informed them that Valper Galilei was with Kokabiel, along with a renegade priest named Fried, who was part of a group of fallen angels who disappeared overnight. Issei immediately related him to Raynare. From the club they went out to look for Kokabiel's possible base in the city, where after a while they met Fried. After a brief battle he fled with Valper, who was in the place. After that they decided to return to Issei's house as the mission base. It must be said that Irina pulled Issei's ears when she found out that he was in a relationship with Asia, Ravel, Burent and Isabella, but she got even angry when she found out what had happened, all told courtesy of Akeno. Suddenly Issei felt a presence outside his house, and when he went out he could see outside his home a black-haired man with red eyes and black wings, having 5 pairs of wings. "Good evening, young demon, I know your mistress is here and I want to give her a message," said the black-haired man. Issei felt Ku put a hand on his shoulder, and behind him was Rias. "Good evening, fallen angel Kokabiel, what brings you to my territory?" Rias welcomed and then spoke seriously. "I have come to start a war, and it will begin by uniting the Excalibur swords into one and destroying the city. If you want to stop me, go ahead," said the fallen one, and then created several spears of light and attacked, but without him, knowing Issei used the Kamui, sending them to his Kamui dimension. "Bachu is heading to the academy," said Kaneko with her Nekomata ears and tail. "Let's go, I'll call Sona on the way," said Rias, and everyone left, except for Issei, who created several clones and left them to take care of his house and his partners while he went to battle. Upon arriving at the academy, he already had a barrier around the Kuo Academy to avoid a disaster, but he was surprised to see Issei make some strange hand positions and create a more powerful barrier. Issei left several cage bunchen in charge of the barrier, along with the members of the student council, to enter the academy, where Kokabiel was waiting for them on a kind of throne in the air, and below it was Valper doing a ritual to unite the 4 Excalibur into one, and by his side, Fried was taking care of him. "So who will eat, will it be Serziches or Serafol?" he asked mockingly. "Instead of them we come," said Rias, while Kokabiel launched a huge spear of light with ease and almost destroyed the academy gym if it weren't for Issei using Kamui again, which impressed Kokabiel. "Let's see if they can beat my pets," said Kokabiel and summoned several Cerberus, but he didn't expect to see a small orange fox come out of Issei, which grew until it was the size of the Cerberus. It must be said that Kurama was using his one-tailed form so as not to raise suspicions. "Kurama, go play," said Issei. "Of course brat," said Kurama excitedly launching himself against a Cerberus and biting his back to tear it apart with his claws in a super brutal way. Rias avoided looking while Irina and Zenobia were afraid of the huge fox. Kiba watched this with interest, but Kokabiel said something that left everyone stunned. "What is the leader of the Kyoto Yokai doing following orders from a low-class demon?" "Answer Yusaka," said Kokabiel angrily towards Kurama. "He is not Yusaka, his name is Kurama, and he is not a Yokai," Issei said seriously, "he is a Bijuu." When he said that, Kurama's other 8 tails grew out. "He is the powerful Kyuubi no Yoko Kurama of the 9 tails," Issei finished. "Ahaha, well said Issei, now to play," said Kurama in a sinister way while he grew even more and the poor Cerberus were scared, although suddenly the attention was called to where Valper was, who shouted. "It's finished," said the old man with emotion. "Preet, I call Kokabiel." "Tell me boss," he said in a deranged voice. "Take the sword and kill those demons," said Kokabiel. "Hi, with my beautiful Excalibur-chan, I'm going to tear them apart," he said, jumping towards where Kaneko was but was intercepted by Kiba, who clashed one of his swords against Freed. "Damn Excalibur," Kiba shouted in anger. Valper recognized him and said. "So the survivor of the Holy Sword Project became a demon. You know I have to thank you since thanks to you, I was able to create this," he said, showing a blue diamond-shaped crystal. "None of you separately could use a holy sword Excalibur, so during my research, I discovered that it was because of the lack of a certain element that was necessary to be able to use the Excalibur, so I made a decision. And it was to extract the elements from the candidates and store them," he said, lifting the crystal. "Then there was no need to kill them," Kiba shouted in anger. "You were just ingredients for something bigger, once used you were of no use to me, so I just threw you away," said Valper. "All this time we thought we were part of something bigger, but we were just treated as ingredients," Kiba said in shock, and Valper threw the crystal at his feet. "Take it from that time, and I've gotten to the point where I can mass produce it," he said mockingly. Kiba picked it up as if it were the most valuable thing, and with small tears said. Eyes without realizing some silhouettes began to form around Kiba. "I've always wondered if it was okay to be the only one to survive. You all had dreams and desires, is it okay that I was the one who survived?" One of the silhouettes grabbed him by the sleeve and pulled it lightly, drawing Kiba's attention, who looked at the little girl next to him, and she smiled at him. Suddenly all the silhouettes began to fly around Kiba while saying. "Except us, we are not afraid, even if God is not watching, our hearts will always be." One Kiba concluded as the souls entered him. "My friends did not want revenge, yet I cannot help but destroy the evil that lies before me," Kiba said, taking a few steps towards Valper and summoning a sword. Suddenly he lifted her up and said. "I will become my sword," he said, as a pair of energies being light and darkness surrounded the blade of the sword of betrayal, the sword that maintains the balance between light and darkness, said Kiba, while Valper remained in disbelief. Freed, Valper shouted in panic, and the insane priest jumped in front of him to protect him. "Fool. You should have taken the gem," he didn't finish saying because Kiba cut his neck, decapitating him with enormous speed to attack Freed, managing to destroy his sword and decapitating him on the spot. "You saw our power surpassed Excalibur," he said happily before the astonished gaze of Irina and Zenobia, who had in her hands a different sword than the one she had before. Everyone's thoughts were interrupted when the last Cerberus was swallowed by Kurama, blood falling from his snout, and it was obvious that it was not his. "It's been a long time since I had such a delicious feast, haha," he said, shrinking his size and standing next to Issei, who had slight orange marks around his eyes and had them closed. "Well, you've managed to surprise me, but it's time to end this," said Kokabiel with malice. "You're right about that, Kokabiel, it's time to end it," Ku said in a serious voice as he took a step in his direction. "I hope you don't die," Ku said, and then flew towards Kokabiel with his dragon wings and the boosted gear in hand, hitting with incredible force, throwing Kokabiel to the ground, who got up and spread his fallen wings. "As expected of the Sekiryu, feared even by the Mayu and the entire underworld," said Kokabiel excitedly, but then she had to avoid multiple spears of light that appeared behind her and a much larger one, which disappeared in a vortex in front of her to appear elsewhere, and having to dodge them again, and the problem was that they had her magical signature. When she saw Issei, he had his Manjikyu Sharingan. After that he launched himself against the younger brown-haired boy, but received a kick to the chin and another to the nape of the neck, falling to the ground courtesy of Ku. He rose in fury and increased his power to the maximum, causing the weakest to fall to the ground, with only Ku and Issei being the only ones standing before such overwhelming power. But something strange seemed to Issei as his Manjikyu disappeared and he showed a change around his eyes and in them. Kokabiel was interested, but then felt terror when he felt Ku increase his power too much for him to scream. "This is over now, balance breaker. Welsh dragon balance breaker." After that he launched himself towards Kokabiel and hit him in the face, throwing him to the ground where Issei hit him back with enormous force, returning to where Ku was, and he hit him with his foot in the stomach, and from the boosted gear penetrate was heard, and Kokabiel vomited blood as he fell to the ground and suffocated with his own blood. He slowly raised his gaze and saw Issei in front of him with the Kubikirabacho in hand, and with one slash, he tore off his wings in the process. Kokabiel screamed in pain and was knocked unconscious after receiving a kick in the face courtesy of Ku, who looked up at the sky and said, "What have you come for, vanishing dragon?" said Ku, and the two barriers suddenly fell to reveal a white armor similar to Ku's. He looked at Ku and said, "Azazel asked me to take Kokabiel to him to judge him for treason, and he asked me to take him, even if it meant kicking and screaming, but I see that they took care of him," said the guy in the armor. "Take him before I kill him," said Ku, throwing Kokabiel in the direction of the guy in white armor. "See you, vanishing dragon, until the day we have to fight." With that, the bearer of the white emperor dragon withdrew. Uzumaki. Issei was looking forward. In front of him were the faction leaders discussing Kokabiel's idea of starting a war. Issei was quite distracted and without paying attention to what was happening in front of him, his mind was on the events that had happened days before. Flashback. Issei was in the occult club not knowing what to do as Irina argued with Asia and Ravel. "Ice-kun is my childhood friend, and I have the right to stay with him," said the brunette with pigtails, while pulling him towards her. "No, Ice-san is ours, he made us his," Asia said the last thing with shame. "Ice-sama is ours, and we are not going to let him go," Ravel said as Asia and Burent agreed. "And why don't you share it, Irina? Is your best option to share it with us," said the blue-haired girl, while the others stared at her. "What do you mean us? You're betraying me, Zenobia, I can't believe it, even you're going after Issei. Is there another girl who's going after you?" Irina said the last thing, looking at Issei, who was hugged from behind by Isabella and from the torso by Kaneko. "Even the kawaii Nico is coming after you," she sighed heavily, and then looked at the rest of the club. "Okay, anyone else?" Seeing Akeno walk towards Issei and kiss him, she remained static. "Are you serious, even the sensual senpai? Do you want to be the king of the harem? You already have the lowly duo, the hexy maid, the teacher with a biker style, the childhood friend, the airhead who knows nothing about modesty. Zenobia, could you stop biting Issei's ear?" "Well, what was I saying? Ah yes, the shameless one, the super cute shy girl, and now the supreme sadomasochist. Did I miss one?" She said and saw how all the girls except Issei agreed. "Well, you win, king of the harem, but I want Kaedu and apostrophe T make me say it in public," she finished, embarrassed and hiding her face from her in her hands. "Well, you surprise me every day, brother-in-law. Your harem is getting bigger and bigger. I'm afraid you'll surpass mine, haha." Razor laughed amusedly as he had a drink with Ku and Rias, who were laughing at what was happening. End of flashback. His face blushed slightly at the memory of that, but his countenance changed when he remembered the subsequent events, like the fact that the next day they cleaned and used the pool. No doubt the cage bunchen were very useful, since he sent a clone to clean, while he wasted time until he was discovered by Ku, who hit the clone and went to look for him. He remembered the bikinis that the girls were wearing and how they all wanted him to put sunscreen on them while rising, and Ku laughed at the situation, although Riser fell down when he saw Lubaluna ask him the same thing, as did Rias, who asked Ku, while Kiba and Gasper just decided to swim without paying the slightest attention. Days later, he was called along with his brother by his senpai to go to his temple, since an important person would be waiting for them there, who turned out to be the Archangel Michael, who gave Ku the sacred sword Ascalon as a symbol of friendship and peace between the biblical factions. The day after that was the observation day, where he had a tense meeting with the members of the Hyoudou clan. Flashback. Issei was walking to class when on the way he met the person his dear mother least wanted to see. "You," said the brunette with some anger, "are ungrateful. You left the clan, and you didn't reveal your little secret to us until the end." "It's none of your business," Issei said while keeping his eyes closed with a monotonous face. "Do not forget that I am the matriarch of the Hyoudou clan. I am your mother, and you must respect me as dictated by the laws of the clan," she said with sarcasm and an arrogant smile. "You know very well that I deserted the Hyoudou clan," said Issei, opening his eyes, showing his Manjukyu Sharingan. "Now I am Otsutsuki Issei. Don't forget yourself or the clan, do you understand? If you dare to come for my head, remember that you will face the Gremory clan of the Underworld for attacking one of its members, don't forget it." Idiot. After that, Issei left the place, leaving his dear mother enraged, who, when looking in the direction of the brown-haired boy, found a blonde who looked at her with an arrogant look and said, "The Gremory isn't the only clan that supports him," he said as he walked past her. "Your clan better watch the moves he makes." Human, he said as he walked away while she was sweating coldly, as the pressure of his gaze was too much. Without a doubt, Ruval Phoenix was someone to be feared. End of flashback. He came out of his thoughts when he heard the leader of the fallen angels, Azazel, speak. Well, now let's hear what those who are not directly involved but whose power can change the course of the world have to say. The Welsh dragon and the vanishing dragon, what do they have to say about it? Said the fallen one. I'm not interested in war, I just want to fight against strong opponents, said the platinum-haired man with a smile as a challenge towards Ku. I vote for peace, on the other hand I am interested in fighting with really powerful people, said Ku with a smile. Well then, but Azazel didn't finish saying that when a magic circle appeared in the middle of the room from where a tanned woman wearing glasses emerged. Interesting topic you're talking about at this meeting, but I must make my point clear, she said as she raised her staff, and the room was completely destroyed. In a barrier made by Surziches, Miguel, Azazel and Serafel, all the attendees at the meeting were safe, although it is not that Ku, the platinum-haired boy or Issei will need it. The barrier created by the faction leaders, which Isko said in a tone of contempt. Issei stopped paying attention as his sight focused on the academy which was being attacked by magicians while angels, fallen and demons repelled them with everything they had. Suddenly, Issei heard a loud impact and saw Azazel fighting with a woman who had interrupted the meeting, although he was impressed to see his brother fighting against the magicians alongside the platinum-haired man, whom they annihilated as if it were nothing. Issei made the cage bunchen and used several clones which began to fight until everyone's attention was interrupted by the arrival of someone else. In Issei's eyes she was quite a beauty, those sky blue eyes, that long silver hair, her fine face and her devilish curves. The platinum-haired man got upset when he saw her there and shouted. What are you doing here, Christine? You shouldn't be in this place, it's a battlefield, Volley shouted worriedly. Don't worry Ani-chan, I've come to kill them all, she said with a serious voice and a sharp gaze, while brandishing a silver sword and a strange shield. Don't be surprised brother, I'll be the next Mayu, she said arrogantly, but her posture showed that she was serious. Mayu? Asia said doubtfully. That's right, I'm Christine Lucifer, I'm the granddaughter of the son of the former demon king, just like Volley, she said, spreading 6 pairs of demon wings. Volley became angry and shouted. Stop saying it like it's nothing, that bastard killed our mother. I don't care Volley, now get away or die, she said, creating a sphere of demonic power and throwing it at Issei, but she was somewhat scared when she saw Issei's eyes. Nonsense, said Issei as he threw a kunai towards the silver-haired girl, and she dodged it easily, but she didn't expect to be grabbed from behind. After turning around she saw Issei, who only said to her. Tsukiyomi, and she remained static while they were lowered to the ground by sand that Shukaku had provided. Volley became worried and went to where her sister was, but when she was able to react, she remained motionless as Issei looked at her in the eyes again, controlling her with a genjutsu, leaving her out of the fight. For her part, Volley, seeing her sister Ella out of danger, relaxed and thanked Issei, although when she felt a surge of power and looked at where Azazel was, she noticed that he was using his golden downfall dragon spear armor. Azazel was tired of this, so he decided to get serious and stop playing games. He took the spear of light he had in his hand, and at a speed impossible for many to see, he impaled the belly demon to immediately create another one, and begin to impale it with several spears of light, destroying it on the spot. After Azazel's victory over Kateria and the defeat of the magicians, a little black-haired girl appeared next to Issei, who felt a chill when he saw her until Surziches spoke. Office, he said with some fear, what are you doing here? However, she did not answer, she simply opened a gap in front of her, from where she took out an unconscious reed and handed her to Issei. She emits the same aura as you, and it's of no use to me, it's yours, she said emotionlessly as Issei held her in his arms. He then noticed, she emitted chakran in large quantities, although not as large as those of a Bijuu, they were quite a lot. The girl in question had broken glasses, and her clothing was strange to the rest, but for Issei, who had the memories of Hagoromo, Hamura, Indra and Ashura, they were not strange. Even through Indra's memories he managed to recognize who she was, especially her name. He looked at the little black-haired girl with black eyes and empty of emotions and said. Leave her in my hands, I'll take care of her, said the brown-haired boy as she agreed, but before leaving she saw Issei take something out of her pocket and hand it to her, it being a sweet. The office didn't know what to do, so she simply took her candy and left in the dimensional screen from which she had taken the redeed. Everyone was doubtful about the redeed, so after an analysis of her condition by Asia, she said that the girl was fine, just unconscious, and that she would wake up soon. A while later, while Azazel immobilized Christine Lucifer, who had already awakened, Volley began to interrogate her. Issei, seeing that the platinum-haired girl spoke, he focused on the redeed, who opened her eyes and looked around bewildered, and seeing Issei said. Sasuke. Tragedy of the ninja world. The redeed with glasses was sitting in an armchair while drinking a coffee which was offered by Issei. At first she confused Issei with Sasuke because their chakras were identical, although she also related him to that imperative ninja with blonde hair and blue eyes, since their chakras were also similar. The reason she confused them was the fact that her glasses were broken and she couldn't see well, so when she saw Issei's dark clothing and the fact that he was using the Sharingan, she was confused, then she remembered how her world was destroyed and cried loudly, while Issei hugged her to calm her down. Now calm and in front of the faction leaders, she finds herself in apparently another reality to which she was taken by that girl in gothic clothing and black hair. "Tell me, are you feeling better, Karen?" Issei said in a sweet tone of voice, although she was shocked by the fact that he hadn't shown up yet. "See, how do you know my name?" she asked, somewhat scared, "and why do I only feel your chakra and that of the white-haired girl over there?" she said, pointing at Kaneko. "Well, this is weird to say, but I have the memories of both Sasuke and that Naruto guy. After all, they were the previous reincarnation of the sons of Hagoromo, better known in your world as the Rikido Sennin. I am the next transmigration of those two, along with their father and uncle," he said without further ado, while everyone looked at Issei surprised. "So, you're Sasuke's reincarnation?" she asked. "Yes, indeed it would be like that, although it would also be that imperative blonde that you met after Danzo's death," after finishing saying that she shuddered slightly. "Sorry for what my past life did," Issei said with a slight nod. "Don't worry, I had forgotten," said the Rikido with glasses. "Not to be a party pooper or interrupt, but what's going on here?" Azazel said curiously as the rest of the leaders looked on expectantly. "Well, I'll have to summarize it as much as I can, so I'll tell you the basics of the story of Himura and Hagoromo." Issei narrates. Many millennia ago there was an extremely powerful woman named Kaguya Otsutsuki, who planted the seed of what was considered a sacred tree, which fed on the natural energy of the planet and living beings. Many of them died, becoming a different species from humans called Setsu. When her two sons, Hagoromo and Himura, found out about the damage that the tree and their mother were causing, they decided to persuade her, but everything ended with their mother absorbing the tree, giving rise to the powerful Jubi. After a very strong battle they managed to seal their mother in an immense rock formation, which ended up being the artificial moon of said planet, which changed drastically, becoming a single continent after such a strong battle. He sealed the 10-tailed beast within himself, while Himura and his offspring decided to take care of their mother's seal on the artificial moon that they both created. Hagoromo eventually had two sons named Ashura and Indra, the latter being the eldest. Indra is the god of Buddhism. That's Azazel-san, but different at the same time. Try to interrupt as little as possible. In short, Indra had the power of his father's eyes, while Ashura had the endurance and ability of his father's body. Hagoromo, already old due to his age, had to choose one of his sons as the heir of Ninshu. He asked Indra how peace was obtained, and he replied that with a firm hand and strength, while Ashura told him that with love and understanding. He liked Ashura's ideal, so he made him his heir. This caused an imminent battle between the two brothers, which ultimately resulted in the death of both, but Indra swore revenge on his brother, while Ashura swore to get his forgiveness one day. Before dying, the wise man feared that the 10-tailed beast would be released and created 9 beings known as Biju. These contained part of the beast's power, and each one had one more tail depending on its power, the Kyuubi no Yoko being the most powerful. Of the reincarnations of the children of Hagoromo, several battles took place between them through their transmigrations. The most notable were Madara Uchiha and Hashirama Senju. Madara under the influence of Black Setsu, who was the third son of Kaguya Otsutsuki, which she created before being sealed so that she could return one day. In short, Madara Uchiha created the Moon Eye plan, with which he would achieve the infinite Tsukiyomi by putting everyone in a permanent illusion where they would be in complete peace. If it weren't for the fact that it was actually a trap to free Kaguya again. Several generations later, the last transmigrations of Ashura and Indra were born, these being Naruto Uzumaki Ashura's transmigration and Sasuke Uchiha Indra's transmigration. During that generation, what was known as the Fourth Ninja War took place, where Madara Uchiha finally returned to life, first through a forbidden jutsu, and then completely through the outer path. He achieved his goal, and the Jubi returned to life. And he ended up killing Sasuke and took the Kyuubi from Naruto, causing his death. Exactly, Karen, but just when the sage planned to bring Naruto and Sasuke back to life, the Dragon of Dragons appeared, intimidating even the Jubi, but Madara, sensing its power, wanted to control it, causing anger in the huge dragon. Normal narration. Everyone was shocked by what they had heard, however it was Karen who broke the silence. Just when that happened, when they angered the huge red dragon, a girl in gothic clothing appeared next to me and said that they angered Red, and now he will destroy them. After that, when I felt something inside me, she took me by the arm, and then I don't remember anything else, Karen finished. Yes, although through the memories of Hagoromo and Himura, I managed to see what happened. The great red dragon killed the Jubi without any difficulty and separated it again into its 9 Bijus, while Hagoromo took them from there so as not to see them be destroyed like the rest. In fact, nothing was left. Issei finished. Well, it's obvious that it wasn't wise to upset the Great Red. Those who could face him without dying are the Ouroboros Dragon Office and the Beast of the Apocalypse. With a lot of effort, perhaps the Celestial Dragons could face him, but not defeat him, said Azazel lazily. After that they decided to sign the peace treaty between the factions, and Issei offered Karen to live with him in her mansion, which she appreciated since she obviously had nowhere else to go. The next day Issei was training in the underground training camp that Riser had set up in Issei's mansion so that he could train at ease. He practiced his Manjikyu Sharingan as he tried to obtain the Sunanu, but he could only summon the ribs, the 2 arms and the head but nothing else. Then I tried to use the 6-path sage mode but still failed, so I decided to leave the training like that for today. When he arrived at the dining room, Azazel, Rias, Ku and Riser were waiting for him and they gestured for him to sit down. Issei, tomorrow we will go to the Underworld for 2 months because it will be the meeting of young demons where Ku's promotion to Supreme Class Demon will be announced, Azazel said, while Issei was shocked by that. I see, that's incredible, Nai-san, I'm impressed and at the same time happy for you, congratulations Issei said happily. Thanks Issei for that, but there is a problem Ku said seriously. And that's it. Issei said in the same tone. Neither Asia-chan nor Karen-san will be able to go unless they are demons, Ku said. I see but I doubt Asia will agree to become a demon and I doubt Karen too Issei said, but a pair of arms surrounded him. In fact, I-san, I do want to be a reincarnated demon to spend eternity with you, Asia said, looking at him with love. For my part, I have no problem in stopping being human. In any case, I already lost everything I had left, Karen said, quite sad. I understand and I'm truly sorry Karen-san Issei said somewhat sad at how Karen felt. After that, Rias went on to turn Asia into her Bishop D'Ella and Karen into her last Rook D'Ella. Although of course Issei does not wait for a certain silver-haired duo. And this Christine is the main dining room said Vali while indicating said room. Oh Vali-san why do you present my house as if it were yours, said Issei with a drop of sweat on the back of his neck. So this is the Sekiryute's house I like the hot spring, said a boy with Chinese armor and a staff in his hand. Like I said this is but was interrupted again. The Sekiryute mansion is very pretty now where my younger sister will be said to a black-haired girl with cat ears and 2 tails. That's my mansion, Issei said with some anger. Wow, this library is very complete. In short, this mansion has many books. Without a doubt, the Sekiryute has good taste, doesn't he? Nai-san, said a girl dressed as a witch. That's right, it's certainly a good mansion, he said with a smile. The air around Issei suddenly turned colder and blue fire and sand swirled around him. Matatabi along with Shukaku came out of Issei in their tiny form with their respective number of tails. Issei's Manjikyu Sharingan looked in all its splendor while he was noticed that he had orange marks around his eyes, which were shaped like a toad. Shukaku, Matatabi, beat them for ignoring me since I repeated it several times, he said as he closed his eyes, and when he opened them a purple aura surrounded him forming the chest, arms and head of the perfect Susanoo in all its splendor. This is my damn mansion, he shouted furiously, while Vali swallowed and the others tensed until Ku spoke out loud. Issei calm down, don't get angry with my guest said Ku, but he should have measured his words or rather chosen his words better. Issei made a cross with his fingers and 6 shadow clones with a red chakra cloak appeared, each representing a tailed beast. Start running Ku Issei said as he started chasing Ku around his house. Underworld PT1. We can see Issei training with a huge dragon in the Underworld. He had already been training in that place for a month after the chase in his mansion that ended with Ku breaking his ass with relative ease. He decided that he would train harder to master the Susanoo since it did not last long in his battle against Ku. In short his Susanoo only lasted 3 minutes and after that Ku hit him in the stomach and said, brother do you know that my strength level is at the level that Drake was at when he was alive and that is underestimating me too much. You are lucky that you will find someone who will train you these 2 months Issei you will meet him in the Underworld, said Ku with a smile that promised pain, and so it was because when he arrived in the Underworld he could see little of it since the dragon with which he was currently training he took him from the Gremory castle as soon as they arrived. Issei decided that he would train harder than before, although fighting a dragon eager to kick ass was not in itself a training but a massacre, although he felt that his strength was increasing. Come on demon larva, use that thing again, you still haven't mastered it, said Tannen, while throwing a huge ball of fire at him. Susanoo perfect said Issei summoning the spectral ethereal being and launching an attack with his sword, splitting the attack in half, destroying it completely, only to see another one bigger than that advancing towards him Kaiten. Great annihilation of fire he said, launching a sea of flames that engulfed the fireball, finishing it off. Well, you're improving, boy. I'm sure you'll be able to do well in the raiding games. On the other hand, I'm impressed by your level of control with fire. That last flame looked like that of a real dragon, Tannen said proudly. But it is still insufficient to confront my brother, although if I continue like this in a while I will manage to defeat him, said Issei motivated. Listen carefully to this, your brother is without a doubt the strongest wielder that Drake has ever had, and not only that, he is the only one to overcome the barriers of his own sacred gear, reaching the level of Drake when he was alive, a feat that not even the Hakuryuko has done, and to be honest, you still couldn't beat any of them. But your growth potential and abilities make you a formidable adversary, Tannen said seriously. I understand that I will improve further and master the 6th-path Sage mode so that I can battle Ku, he said with determination as he concentrated on accessing the Toad Sage mode to get used to it and be able to better master its power. The next day. Issei was in the mansion of the Gremory territory, although he noticed that he was frowned upon by the servants and the leaders of the Gremory house, he did not care as he prepared to go to the youth meeting. He put on his tuxedo and left the room, meeting Ku, who let out a whistle in shock and gave him a thumbs up. You look good Ataudo, the suit suits you haha said Ku while nodding. Same here Nikki, you look good even though that tie is ugly, couldn't you find a wine-colored one? Issei said looking at his brother who had a really ugly yellow tie. You think? No wonder you laughed as soon as you saw me you went to look for one hahaha he laughed, although seeing how Issei saw Asia's dress made him want to laugh because he looked at her carefully and with a blush earth calling Issei, he said while moving his hand in front of Issei's face so that he would look at him. Haha, she looks beautiful, do you think I'll be able to make her happy one of these days? He asked with a lot of doubt, very common in Issei. Itiaku replied, hitting Issei's forehead with 2 fingers, you already do it he said with a smile. Thanks Aniki he said with a big smile. After the talk about siblings, the other girls arrived, making Issei blush when he saw his beautiful girls. He praised them all, receiving a kiss from each one, while Ku gave Rias a compliment, making her blush on the spot. After everyone was ready, they left for the meeting place of the young people of the Underworld, although Vanilla Gremory asked Issei not to embarrass her master. Upon arriving at the place they noticed that a young man with black hair and muscular build approached them greeting them. Hello Rias, I see you have a new member in your entourage, although the blonde girl is not part of your entourage, right? Said the young man, referring to Asia, who was not a demon. That's right Sareog, she is one of my new pawn's partners, he is Otsutsuki Issei, Ku's younger brother, said Rias to the now identified Sareog. Hyoudou Ku's younger brother? I'm sorry to ask you this, but were you exiled from the Hyoudou clan? Sareog said with curiosity and slight sadness. I renounced the clan and changed my last name, and don't worry, the Hyoudou always hated me, so it didn't affect me at all, said the younger brown-haired boy. I see, although from what I see now you look happier, said Sareog. That's right, I have many precious people who truly appreciate me he said while the girls looked at Issei very happily. Suddenly the door of the place flew through the air, putting everyone on alert as a guy who from a distance was obviously an idiot was seen arguing with a blonde girl with glasses. That's why I'm telling you, Shikvara, you should accept my proposal to become my bitch in bed, maybe that way you'll get rid of that virginal frown. He was interrupted by a punch from Ku, who didn't look happy at all. Shut up and get some sleep, whoever wants trouble knows I'm here, Ku said annoyed while Shikvara thanked him for helping her, although a slight blush was seen on her face, but when she noticed how Rias looked at her while clinging to Ku's arm, a drop of sweat came out on the back of his neck. After that everything went smoothly until all the young people were called to meet with the council members, the Mayu and the leader of the fallen angels. Everyone said their dream until it was Sona Citri's turn, which they laughed at. I was about to intervene until Issei spoke. Oh, I see, that way the rating games would have more variety, increasing the number of participants, which would cause the number of fans of the rating games to increase, and that would be reflected in more audience and more profits. I see, without a doubt Sona Citri is a genius to believe that she came up with something so complex and such a simple idea. Even if I think about the profit numbers it makes me think that Sona Citri is a truly ambitious and intelligent woman, said Issei, while some members of the council applauded the magnificent idea. After that Surziches made an announcement. Hyoudou Ku, on behalf of the 4 Yondai Mayu and the members of the Demonic Council, I grant you the rank of Supreme Class Demons, as well as your evil pieces, congratulations, said the Mayu Lucifer with a smile. Underworld PT2. Hyoudou Ku, on behalf of the 4 Yondai Mayu and the members of the Demonic Council, I grant you the rank of Supreme Class Demons, as well as your evil pieces, congratulations, said the Mayu Lucifer with a smile. Rias was surprised by this but let it go, knowing that sooner or later her brother and the members of the Demonic Council would promote him due to his enormous power and popularity in the underworld. Ku, for his part, was a little surprised, but it didn't seem so strange to him. After all, he knew it would happen, although he expected it to be after the rating games. Without further ado, he went to receive his evil pieces from him and be congratulated by the Mayu. Issei was another case. He felt bad because his brother was no longer in the Gremory entourage, but he was very happy to see him succeed. After a while, it was determined which would be the fights between the young demons. Citri vs Gremory. The Gers vs Astaroth. Bale vs Glacial Ebolas. And the winner of the event would be Ku, who during the remaining time would have to look for members for his entourage. After all that, the party continued until it was interrupted by someone in particular. "I do not agree with this farce," Odin said, Loki in the air. "Loki, this is for the good of everyone, and I've made a decision." "In that case, let me hear one of my arguments," said Loki, summoning Fenrir. "Loki," Odin murmured sadly. Fenrir looked at each guest until he felt a very strange and bad feeling when he saw a certain red-eyed brown-haired man. Something in him made him back off. How the hell did a demon make him back off? He was the god-killing wolf god, and a simple low-class demon made him back off. Something was wrong. He was more than just what he let on, but he was sure of one thing: his instinct screamed danger, and an imminent one. Loki watched as Fenrir looked at the red-eyed brown-haired boy, but upon feeling his aura, he murmured to him saying, "It's that Hyoudou." However, his thoughts of him were interrupted when a Kokabiel sealed him along with Fenrir. After sealing Loki, the party ended and the vast majority left, leaving only Odin, the Demon Kings, Rias and her entourage, Sona and her entourage, Ku and Vali. It was discussed who would go to fight against Loki to retain him until Odin would send a replica of Mjolnir with an advanced sealing spell to seal Loki for all eternity. Only 10 could go. Odin offered his escort to go while Ku along with Vali with Kuroka offered to go. Rhea said that Issei, Kiba, Zenobia, Kaneko, Akeno and she would go. Sona wanted to go with Tsubaki and Saji, but there was no way to go, but Vali suggested that Arthur would take him, Kuroka and Ku, while the others would go through the magic circle made by Ajuka. And so they went to prepare for battle. Issei meditated in the garden while the others prepared themselves, because in the same way if he needed one of the 7 swords of the mist, he only had to summon it with his sacred gear. While he meditated, he entered his subconscious, finding a certain person in front of him. It was Indra. "You must be careful, Issei. You have just perfected the Sharingan to its final stage. Avoid feeling hatred, or you will fall into the Uchiha's curse of hatred like all my descendants did, and even me," Indra said seriously, but then his features relaxed. "From what I see, you have almost completely mastered the power of my brother Ashura. That means that soon you will be able to reach the power that my father left you, the Rinnegan," he said quite proudly. "Really?" said the younger brown-haired boy, stunned. "That's right, you've already mastered the Toad Sage mode, and you're starting to use the Ashura Sage mode. Maybe you'll soon awaken the Gudadamas," said Indra happily. "I'll be up to par soon," he said in a minor chestnut tone, but that was precisely what bothered Indra the most. That he underestimated himself. "You already are since you awakened the Sharingan. Don't underestimate yourself. Remember that you have the most powerful legacies from another world. Apart from what I know, you have never used the evil piece's promotion, right?" asked Indra. "Now that you mention it," he said thoughtfully, then opened his eyes in disbelief. "It seems that you already understood. Well, I'm leaving. Take care, Issei. I'll be watching you from beyond," he said, and slowly faded away. "Yes," he said with determination that he did not have before meditating. That said, he left his subconscious, but someone had observed the whole conversation. "Soon, Issei, soon," while a purple flash was seen in the depth of the place. "Out of your subconscious." Issei stood up ready to leave for what would be a life or death battle, but now he looked very determined. Everyone gathered in the central courtyard of the castle of the Mau Lucifer, where they will leave for the place where they will fight against Loki. It turns out that Zeus had found out and wanted to help, so he sent his daughter Athena. Odin did not know what to think because Zeus always rivaled him, but apparently this alliance for peace between the factions motivated him to put aside differences and rivalries in favor of peace. Athena would go with the Vali team, while the others set off through the magic circle. Upon arriving, they saw that it was a rocky and lonely place where a strange seal was present, when suddenly it shone, breaking, revealing Loki, along with Fenrir and his children. Loki raised one of his hands and summoned 5 copies of Midgardsormr and his daughter Hela, accompanied by an army of undead from all Nordic races. Hela has a curse in which half of her face is rotten, and she is horrible to look at. Vali and the others appeared next to the team. Loki smiled when he saw Athena. Wow, Zeus sent his daughter to her doom. Then he looked at Ku and Vali, the celestial dragons. Hahaha, I will have the honor of being the first to fight against them both, and also to kill them, he said mockingly, but Ku just looked at him with a flat face. "You are very arrogant, knowing that I am at the height of Drake's power in his best days. Apart from the Hikryuko of this generation is not far behind, in fact he is on par with me," said Ku with a half smile. "We'll see if it's true, mortal," said Loki. "Fenrir, Hadi, Skoll, kill the mortals accompanying the Sekiryuite. Hela, take care of Athena. Clones of my son, defeat that Valkyrie and help Fenrir," Loki ordered, then looked mockingly at the celestial dragons. "I'll take care of you too." Issei looked at Fenrir as he looked at him closely, something told the two to be careful with their adversary, but more than anything in Fenrir, her instinct screamed for him to flee the place. Queen promotion, Issei shouted. Ignoring his senses, he launched himself towards Issei, while his children fought with the rest of the Gremory group, along with the three Citri. Rias was in trouble because 5 copies of the Midgarsimer were too much for her, but then a lightning bolt hit one of them, revealing the fallen angel of the Barakwheel cadre level accompanied by Tannen, who jumped into combat against the 5 copies. Loki managed to narrowly avoid Ku while Volley hit him in the back, but he passed through him from side to side like a ghost. "What a mediocre illusion, Loki," said Volley, hitting him from behind with a spinning kick, hitting Loki in the face while he cursed, then smiled and disappeared again. Ella fought against Athena, who tried to persuade her. "Ella, don't believe in Loki, he doesn't intend to cure your curse, we can help you and find a solution to this," said Athena, the goddess of wisdom, war and death. "I don't believe you. He said that only the blood of the 2 celestial dragons could cure my curse," Hela said angrily. Issei narrowly dodges an attack from Fenrir, so without further ado, he resorted to the perfect Susanoo and the Ashura mode to be able to face the huge wolf, while Hadi and Skoll attacked from the sides. He watched as Loki looked at where Akeno was defeating a large number of undead and launched a great attack. "I have tried to move, but Skoll cut one of the Susanoo's legs, while Hadi rammed his chest making him back off, while Issei tried to help Akeno. Barakwheel received the attack piercing his chest to Ella right in front of Akeno, who screamed in horror, seeing her father to Ella die in front of her. Issei managed to get rid of Hadi and Skoll to help Barakwheel, but when he saw that he inevitably died, he used the Izanagi to bring him back to life, but that second was enough for an unknown person to stab him in the shoulder and Fenrir to bite him in the belly. Issei flew through the air crashing into the cold ground as he bled out. Ku, seeing this, became enraged, and his power began to increase too much, while he ignored Drake's desperate cries for him not to use the Juggernaut drive. Rias was enraged, her young pawn had been fatally wounded right under her nose. Akeno was in shock while her father could not explain how he was still alive. The leaders who were watching the confrontation through a magic circle were stunned by the death of the young brown-haired boy. Suddenly the chestnut's body disappeared and he reappeared standing 2 meters from where he had died. Kaneko felt the sudden increase in chakra. Issei closed his eyes as Fenrir lunged at him. Fenrir felt like he had made a huge mistake as he felt every fiber of his being screaming for him to flee, but it was too late. He slowly opened his eyes as he spoke just a couple of words. "Shinra Tensei," he said as he opened his eyes, which were now purple with rings. Fenrir was sent flying backwards at high speed as soon as those 2 words were said. Issei watched as Hadi and Skoll charged towards him. "Bansho Tenin," he said as he raised his hands towards the pair of wolves and black bars came out of his hands. The pair of wolves ended up with a bar each in the stomach, and then at high speed, Issei stuck several of those bars, but smaller ones in the body of the pair, removing the large bar from their bellies, while the Rinnegan was now reflected in their eyes. They launched themselves against Fenrir, who was barely recovering from the mysterious attack, managing to bite him on the sides, leaving him immobile. Issei was already close to them when he used one of those bars and stuck it in one of Fenrir's ears, who only managed to howl in pain, while Issei stuck more of those bars into his body until the Rinnegan was reflected in Fenrir's eyes. It must be said that everyone looked at this in shock. Issei began to float when next to Ku appeared in a magic circle, the copy of the Miyajnar, which Issei, upon seeing him, raised his hand to the Bansho Tenin, he said, attracting the copy of the Miyajnar towards him, while releasing a small amount of Raten chakra to the sky. "Even with your increase in power, you are still a miserable mortal. You will never be on par with Thor, and only he can use that hammer, as if it were the original," he said as thousands of copies of it appeared, but suddenly the sky of the underworld began to cloud over as lightning began to be heard in the sky. Issei raised a huge hammer to the sky in the direction of a place where there were no copies of Loki. "Neither my Sharingan eyes nor these eyes can you deceive with your cheap illusions, Loki." Then he quickly lowered the hammer without moving from his place, saying Raten. Kirin from the sky, a huge dragon made of lightning, fell from the sky straight to the real Loki. Issei did not waste any time as he launched a powerful blow with a hammer infused with Raten chakra. Loki fell victim to his own deceptive mind and screamed in panic, "Damn Thor," as he was hit by the hammer, electrocuting him and sealing him. Issei then looked at a rock in the distance and raised his hand towards it. "Bansho Tenin," he said, attracting the one who was hiding behind the rock, being the one who attacked him, wounding him in the shoulder. The hooded man ended up with his neck in Issei's hands as he said, "Satoru cousin, I see that the Hyoudou either have a lot of pants or are really stupid," Issei said calmly as the 3 wolves surrounded them. Ella looked at everything at a disadvantage because between the cadre, the Valkyrie and the former Dragon King, they had finished off the copies of Midgarsimer. Their armies were almost decimated, but Athena was still trying to convince her. Her thoughts were cut off after hearing a scream. "Shut up, you damn traitor, you lied to us all this time, you hid that power you had from us, making us believe that you were someone weak," said Satoru in anger. "You're wrong, we both lie to everyone, my dear Orange," said Issei, confusing the Kodomatsukami Satoru, suddenly changing his expression into a confident smile. "You're right, Issei-san, I Orange will return to the Hyoudou clan to continue spying on them," said Satoru, bowing before leaving in a magic circle. Ella saw this and was shocked, then she felt Issei's gaze. "Only you remain," but then he looked at her in detail. "What a pathetic illusion, why do you keep it?" said the brown-haired boy, leaving everyone, including her, intrigued. "What are you talking about?" "This is a curse that I have had since I was little, this aberration that I will carry all my life," she said while a few tears ran down her cheeks. "It's just a pathetic illusion," said Issei, making a sign with his hand Kai. As soon as he said that, the putrefaction on Hella's face disappeared, and when she felt a change in herself, a small hand mirror appeared in a magic circle. After seeing that there was no putrefaction, she did what anyone would do, she cried inconsolably while Athena hugged her to calm her down. Issei watched as Akeno checked on her father while crying, begging him to never leave her alone, to never leave like her mother left this world. Something occurred to Issei, and seeing an undead woman, he attracted her with his Bancho Tenon and made some hand positions. "Kuchius," Ito Tensei said, so that the undead was wrapped in a kind of paper, and then in its place, there was a black-haired girl very similar to Akeno. "Shuri," she said in a baraquial whisper as tears fell down her cheeks. "Mikasa," Akeno said in shock. "It's not over yet," Issei said. "Rin Tensei." With that, Shuri's eyes took on their normal color, and her body was now completely alive. It didn't take more than an instant for Baraquiel and Akeno to hug her tightly, and both cried, while Baraquiel said that he would forgive her for being late, but she only managed to hug the duo and say that now they would be together. Ku was shocked as he watched the undead army disappear into magic circles. Bali looked at Issei directly. If he revived Akeno's mother, maybe. Ella moved away from Athena a little as she approached Issei until she was by his side. Issei looked at her for a moment until his eyes widened in disbelief. Ella was kissing him, Akeno was hugging him from behind her while thanking him for reviving her mother. Bali approached at a beastly speed and stood in front of Issei and looked at him carefully. "If you can see my memories just by looking into my eyes, I ask you to revive my mother, please, Otsutsuki Issei," said the platinum-haired man. Issei looked at him for a second and then looked at Hella, who was hugging him by the waist. "If me an undead," she didn't ask but rather demanded. She neither short nor lazy, summoned one through a magic circle. Issei made some hand positions and said Kuchius. Ito Tensei after that, and just like with Shuri, the undead was wrapped in papers until forming a black-haired girl with blue eyes who looked at Bali with curiosity. "Rin Tensei," said Issei, causing her to come back to life. "Ready Hakuruko, your mother is back." After that, Issei turned around, disappearing in a magic circle, leaving everyone worried, especially Ku, although then he smiled. "So it's today, Oda Taudo," she said, looking at the landscape. "Rest in peace," said another, walking towards Rias, while everyone saw Vali crying in her mother's arms. Guo City, 12 p.m. Flames were burning as several corpses were seen at the scene. Issei had his recently deceased mother in his hand, who without further ado, threw her to the ground with an empty look. "Damn monster, Sadarama. He won't do it, or it's not like that, my dear Orange," said Issei as Satoru arrived at his side. "That's right, Issei-sama, I've already protected the miners, while Kusama arrives to take his position as heir of the Hyoudou," said Satoru. "Well, any last words, Goru?" said Issei, while Goru just looked at him with anger. "I'll see you in hell," said the older brown-haired man with mange. "No, you will be in hell, Amaterasu," he said, setting the chestnut tree on fire in deep black flames like on that bright full moon night, while Goru's final screams ceased. "Now all that's left is to take my place as heir," said a certain brown-haired boy next to Issei. "That's right, brother. Our level and extra information. First of all, I don't want you to take Ku as a bastard or some kind of villain, because he is based on my older brother, at least to a lesser extent, but on him at the end of the day. Now I will explain the power level of Ku and Issei respectively, as well as part of Ku's history as a character prior to the canon of my story. Datasheet. Hidauku. Age 18 years old. Affiliations. Supreme Class Devil, former pawn of Rias Gremory, heir to the Hyoudou clan. Our levels. Before joining the Gremory group. LVL. High Class Devil. Upon being reincarnated. LVL. Supreme Class Devil or Dragon King. Current level after a year of hard training. LVL. Celestial Dragon. Sacred Equipment. Boosted Gear, Ascalon. Phases of your power level. A state. Supreme Class Demon. Equipping Boosted Gear. Dragon King. Balance Breaker. Celestial Dragon. Juggernaut Drive. Unknown. Nicknames. The most powerful Sekiryuite in history, obtained after defeating Surziches in a fight in a state of destruction. The Crimson Fury after annihilating an army of renegade demons while still a member of the Hyoudou clan. The true Red Dragon of Domination title given by Drake himself. The Dragon of Massacre title given after annihilating half of the Council of Elders of the Underworld after trying to force him to renounce Rias. He was a low-class demon, and after that Surziches promoted him to middle class upon regaining political power. Otsutsuki Issei, formerly Hyoudou Issei. 17 years old. Affiliations. Gremory clan, formerly Hyoudou. Power levels. Before receiving magic reserves from Ku. LVL. Infrahuman. After receiving Ku's reservations. LVL. Middle class devil. After receiving Ria's mutated piece. LVL. High class devil. After receiving transmigrations. LVL. High class devil supreme class. After awakening Mangekyo Sharingan. LVL. Supreme class devil. After training with Tannen. LVL. Dragon King. After awakening Rinnegan. LVL. Dragon King Mayu Archangel 6-winged cadre demigod. Once reaching perfect Rinnegan and perfect 6-path sage mode. LVL. God Celestial Dragon. Phases of your power level. Ace. High class demon. Sharingan. High class demon. Mangekyo Sharingan. Supreme class demon. Byakugan. High class demon. Rinnegan. Dragon King Mayu. Rinnegan 6-path sage mode. Dragon King Mayu. Perfect Rinnegan and 6-path sage mode. God equals heavenly dragon. Ku's story. Eldest son of the Hyoudou, older than Issei by exactly 1 year. Since his birth a prodigy over the entire Hyoudou clan from ancient times to the present, he always cried with helplessness when seeing the suffering that his younger brother suffered from his parents, to the point of having regular nightmares about it, to the point that on some occasions, he has been about to awaken the Juggernaut drive. He hates his parents and the entire clan, and would even be capable of destroying the world itself for the well-being of his younger brother. He is deeply in love with Rias Gremory since he met her, and is the second person for whom he would be capable of destroying the world. Proof of this is that he eliminated half the Council of Elders of the Underworld for trying to force him to leave Rias to compromise her with a high-class demon. After that he was promoted to middle-class demon for returning political power to the Mayu who rewarded him for it. Surziches tested Ku's loyalty for Rias by subtracting him from a fight, and if he lost, he would have to leave Rias and kill his younger brother. Ku swept the floor with him the entire fight, even though Surziches ultimately used the power of destruction mode, or better known as its true form, which is a living mass of the power of destruction. Despite that he lost after Ku defeated him with a single blow with all his power, losing the skin of his entire arm in the process. He warned Issei several times not to go on the date with Raynare at that time Yuma, but Issei was so excited and eager for love that he ignored his brother's warnings. Ku shortly before meeting Rias eliminated an entire army of renegade demons in battle, which were 34-75 against versus 1 winning and receiving the title of the Crimson Fury, since at that moment the balance breaker awakened for the first time. This happened 2 years before the canon. Before the battle against Kokabiel he already knew Vali, and they have a very strong rivalry and friendship to the point of being considered brothers, and as a result of that the two celestial dragons, they gave up their eternal fight. Everyone was unaware of this friendship until the meeting of the biblical factions. History of Hyoudou Issei. Youngest son of the Hyoudou, also known as the Unwanted. The first Hyoudou to be born without large magical reserves, being the subhuman as a result of that, hated and discriminated against without any kind of compassion. Issei never knew the warmth of a family or a hot or minimally decent meal until he met Hyoudou Irina, his first friend. Every time he managed to escape from the Hyoudou enclosure to play with her he was cruelly punished. From being forced to be in Caesar and then placed on his legs a 6-kilo stone, while he was slapped by each member of the clan, except for Ku, who attacked his own father for doing that to Issei. After that they did not do it again. After Irina's departure Issei was left alone, but met Mitsuda and Motohama, who became his two best friends. After Raynare's betrayal Issei became slightly depressed due to so many events that happened around him, but when he met Asia he was smitten at first sight. After hearing the lie from Asia he felt identified with her, and seeing her die he changed abruptly and for life, becoming the coldest with the world except for Asia and those who are close to him. Despite being a Shura's transmigration he is more identified with Indra, even his chakra is identical to Indra's, hence Karen's confusion when meeting him. After awakening the Rinnegan his coldness only got worse, and now he doesn't care about anything other than his loved ones, and close ones. Kurama and Shukaku are closer to him than the rest of the Bijuus. Son Goku admitted that he does not trust Issei completely, but will help him because he is his father's last legacy. Consequences. We can see Issei in front of the members of the Council of Elders, the Mayu, and behind him the Gremory entourage, Ku and Vali's team watching attentively what was happening in front of them. Otsutsuki Issei, you are accused of massacring all the adults of the Hyoudou clan, and not only that, but of manipulating the minds of all the young people of a human clan. Do you have anything to say? Said one of the members of the Council of Elders. They deserved something thousands of times worse, Issei declared, while his Rinnegan glowed dangerously. You understand that your mistake has severe consequences, said the old man seriously and annoyed. Obviously, he declared with a cold and indifferent attitude. Then you know what we'll say now. He didn't finish saying it because Ku appeared in front of him with his boosted gear and a dragon chute about to be fired. Think carefully about the next words you say. I've already wiped out half the council once, don't force me to do it again, Ku said with a really serious and annoyed look that showed he wasn't joking or lying at all. Stop Ku, there's no need for you to get involved, Issei said coldly. Ku was stunned and slowly retreated to his previous place with sadness and a very deep. There are no excuses or influences that will save you, Otsutsuki Issei, you are sentenced to death by extracting your evil pieces. Any last request, said the old man seriously. How are you? Issei said as he stretched out his hand. This, he said, dropping a red pawn piece which fell to the floor. See you soon, he said, turning around. Bye, Gremory, he said, leaving the place using Kamui. I'm stopped in the room, silence reigned in the place, incredulous looks, despair of several people, the fury of others, indifference of some others, the grief of a brother, and the pain of his loved ones. Issei-san, Asia said in tears as she stared at the place where the love of her life was for the last time. Calm down Ku, you will enter. Drake was silenced by a furious scream from Ku as he hit the ground creating a huge crater. T tell me what to do right now, Drake Ku said with an angry expression as big as the brotherly love for his beloved younger brother. What a shitty thing happened, said Azazel holding his temple with his left arm. If what he told us at the faction meeting is true, he is the most powerful renegade demon there has been after Rizavum. I don't even dare to say that there are only a few who can confront him. It affects everyone in different ways, but there are only 8 people who were destroyed by this today, Surzicha said looking sadly as Ku cried in Ria's arms, while Asia was hugged by Irina, Keno, Kaneko, Zenobia, Burant and Ravel as they cried inconsolably. The council members mostly had an angry expression on their eyes as they looked at the pawn in Ria's hand. That renegade dared to withdraw that piece that could have killed him, and worse yet, he escaped without any difficulty. Human world residence Otsutsuki. He walked through his mansion in the human world while taking the 7 swords of the mist and stored them in a seal of Fuinjutsu and Nordic runes, which were taught to him by Hela, who was accompanied by her faithful pet Garm, the terrible guardian hound of Helheim and Niflheim. It must be said that Fenrir, Skoll and Hadi were next to Issei with the Rinnegan's eyes reflected in theirs. Then you will go on a trip, said Hela. That's right, I'll go take out the trash, said the brown-haired boy. If you need somewhere to stay overnight, you'll always have a good place in Helheim, not even Odin would go there, Hela said, looking at him in her eyes. I'll take your word for it, he said dryly. See you later, Hela, he said as he left in a vortex. I don't understand how he does it, but it's incredible, he said with a smile, but looked at his hand and trembled. He would undoubtedly never forget how he tore the evil piece with his bare hand from the chest of his beloved brunette, killing him. That feeling of his blood running down his hand and Issei's dead gaze, so that he would just disappear and reappear in front of him with a blind eye, that was later replaced by another of those red eyes so mysterious to her. Okay, let's go, Garm, Hela said as the dogs stood beside her as they left the place in a magic circle. 2 months later. Asia was tied up in some kind of strange device, while the black-haired boy was lying on the ground, somewhat beaten. If I die, that device will activate, killing us all, ha, said the young man. Diodora asked her if you are a bastard, joining the Cows Brigade, and all for what? Said Rias quite upset while Ku destroyed the device just by using his bare hands. He destroyed a device created by a Longinus, with just his hand, said Diodora. Until the day he comes back to us, I will protect all his loved ones, said the brown-haired boy with honey eyes. Kunai-san, can I pray a little? Said the blonde as she walked a few meters away from everyone. I hope one of these days we can be together, Issei, the blonde prayed, but was suddenly enveloped by a pillar of light, and then nothing, there was no trace of her. When nothing, I thought I was in shock. A demon praying to God, how disgusting, said to brown-haired demon. Shalba, help me, if the old and the current Mayu join together we can defeat. He fell silent after being hit by an attack from Shalba himself. You are useless, Diodora, so die, and well now it's your turn, sister of the false Mayu, said Shalba, while Ku slowly began to come out of his shock. Where is Asia? Nah, Asia, stop playing, you have to wait for my brother, Ku said in panic. Are you a fool or what, Sekiryuite? Isn't obvious it? She's dead. I sent her to the dimensional gap. Right now she must be being crushed by space-time itself. Shalba said mockingly. The whole air in the place became heavy and dropped several degrees, and then a huge explosion of power came from Ku. Your demon is called Shalba, said Drake from the boosted gear, calling the attention of the aforementioned. You have made the worst mistake of your. His words died when a simple pair of words rang out in the room. Bancho Tenon and Shalba flew to the hand of a certain chestnut tree that they believed was dead and which carried the Rinnegan. Father, what are you doing here, said Ku in shock. You should be more than dead, damn you, he shouted in anger. I am one of the paths of truth, Tendu, said the brown-haired man with the Rinnegan, while he threw Shalba to where Diodora's corpse was while he touched the ground. Kuchius no jutsu, and after a bit of smoke another 5 more came out, and one was the beloved brown-haired man with a certain blonde who was crying in his arms. Hikushoto, kill them, said Issei as Fenrir walked up to Shalba and with a simple bite, devoured half of his body while he disappeared and reappeared in the same place. Izanagi, it's not like it was that easy for you to die. Receive your mortal punishment, he declared, while the other paths walked towards Shalba, who tried to flee but remained motionless looking at a shadow below him. Shirado path shows you the 8 internal doors and your flames of youth, he said, so that the one with green clothing and black bowl-shaped hair advanced towards Shalba. Yosh, I will show you the true flames of youth, Kamen Kai, he said, and after that at a blinding speed he hit Shalba in the face. Kickman Kai, Seiman Kai, after that his skin turned red and his veins stood out as he advanced at high speeds and hit him even harder, leaving Shalba very injured. Shoman Kai. Thoman Kai. After this a greenish chakra aura began to release from his body as he fiercely hit Shalba in a combo of kicks and punches. Kamen Kai. Hyaman Kai. After this the chakra aura turned blue and his blows seemed to catch fire. Apparently Issei used the Izanagi several times because Shalba died repeatedly from the serious injuries he received from the Shirado path. Shimon Kai. After that his chakra aura was red and his blows evaporated the blood of the same Shalba who tried by any means to escape but it was impossible for him. Enough, Shirado, you've already shown what the calls of youth can do, said Issei while Shalba was in the air. After that Issei's right arm turned into a cannon, after he fired a gigantic beam of energy. I curse you, brother of the Sekiryuite, Shalba shouted as he was consumed by the attack and disappeared. It's over, said Issei, but then he noticed the presence of the same little gothic loli that he gave to Karen at the meeting of the factions, the same office Ouroboros. She looked at the Shirado path with interest. Part of your soul is someone else but your body is not alive, how is that possible? Office asked curiously. It's hard to explain. To summarize, they brought my soul to a living container and used a jutsu called Ito Tensei, but they added these chakra bars and turned me into a path of truth or something like that. But the best of all, now my flames of youth burn stronger than ever, shouted the subject with flames in his eyes. By the way, I'm Ito Guy, he said while smiling and a shine appeared on his teeth. I am Office Ouroboros, said the gothic loli. What are the flames of youth? She said with doubt. And so Mito Guy explained to him that they were the flames of youth, but Issei watched the leaders arrive until Office stood next to Ku. Finally the hateful red cum, said Office looking at the sky where the enormous beast emerged from a fissure in space, emerging imposingly. The big red one day I will defeat him, said Volley looking at him. That's if I don't get ahead of myself, said Ku. What are you talking about? I will definitely be the one to defeat him, Issei said between the two, while Guy continued with his explanation of the flames of youth. See you later, Ku, he said turning around. See you later, girls, he said with a smile, but before leaving Surziches spoke. Otsutsuki Issei, right now you are considered a renegade demon, but I want to know something, are you responsible for the attacks on the Cows Brigade? The Redhead asked. That's right, I just take the trash out where it belongs, and I'll keep doing it until the Cows Brigade disappears forever. Even you defeated me? Office asked monotonously. Maybe I will, but if you decide on another path I will forgive you, said the brown-haired boy. Office just smiled, although her smile was noticeably fake, as it was obvious she didn't know how to express herself, and she simply left the place. I'm leaving, but first Bancho Tenon, he said pointing at Asia, who flew towards him to end up in his arms. I love you, Asia. After that he kissed her, and then he used the same ability again on Arena and Zenobia to kiss them too. Then Kaneko and Akeno went. I wish Ravel and Burant were there, say hello to them for me. After that he left using Kamui. Human World, Kyoto. Issei appeared at a hotel where he was staying, looked towards the east and said, so here I am too. Dance of Nine Tails. It was daytime in the city of Kyoto, people walked through so beautiful, but not everything was rainbows and pink clouds for the little Kunu, because her beloved mother was kidnapped by an unknown group and they had no way of finding her, but even so she would not give up. Then she felt the power emanating from the subject with brown hair and hazel eyes, passing through the torii of the temple. She decided to confront him. You're not from Kyoto, who are you? Where's my mother? Demanded the little kitsune. Issei just looked at her carefully, a girl with blonde hair and dressed as a Haim Maiko, with fox ears and 9 tails on her back. He decided to answer her. I'm not from Kyoto, I'm from Kuo. I'm Otsutsuki Issei, and I don't know where your mom is, but I'm willing to help you, said the brown-haired boy calmly. Seriously, would you help me? Thank you, Edo. I am a Kunu, a Yaokai Kitsune, a Kyubi no Yauko, she said with sadness the last thing. At that moment several Yaokai guards stood at her sides, flanking her as they prepared to attack the possible intruder. What do you want from Princess Kunu? Where is Yusaka-sama? Speak now or perish, said one of them, which was a red oni with a large club in his hands. Stop it, he just offered me his help to find my mother, said Kunu. We cannot trust the princess, it is clear that he is a stranger, the oni stressed. While you were talking bad about me I started to track a chakra signature identical to hers, and it's in Niju Castle. However, whatever her kidnappers want they will act tonight, and I have a bad feeling, said the brown-haired boy in Toad Sage mode, and then looked to Kunu. I will bring your mother safely back, it's a promise, he said with a warm smile. Don't listen to him, princess, it could be a trap, said the oni. Hush, can I go with you? Said the little Maiko. It's no problem for me, said the brown-haired boy as he turned around to leave the temple and began to walk towards the exit, accompanied by the Maiko and her guards. Kurama didn't know what to think about this since he was the nine-tailed Bijuu, the powerful Kyubi no Yauko, even though he hated being called that, but next Issei was a Kyubi too, so he didn't know what to think about it. As they walked through the city a mist appeared around them, Issei activated his Sharingan instinctively and looked at those in front of them. Dimension lost. One of the 13 Longinus, I have heard of its current and pathetic bearer Georg Faust, Issei said with displeasure, then he set his gaze on the child of the group Annihilation Maker, a quite dangerous Longinus in the wrong hands, even more so in a brat like you Leonardo, Blade Blacksmith is also useless, cannot fight me even with all your power gene. Variant detonation undoubtedly useless against my path Ashura Heracles, twice critical even in your balance breaker you are no match for me, I would defeat you with a cage bunshin, even if you use your demonic swords, Gram, and his dragon slayer power is ineffective against me, Belming is no match for any Futen Jutsu, nodding is a bad joke for me Sharingan or my Byakugan. Turfing is no match for any mist sword, Dane's leaf is similar to a Hyoten element jutsu, you have nothing to face me the last and most dangerous but equally ineffective the true Longinus and its current wielder Cao, your balance breaker and your physical abilities are the problem but it is useless if I use the Tendo path, now I will ask you, what is a faction as problematic as the hero faction doing in Kyoto? Issei said bored. You are the one they call the new god of the six paths, what a joke, although I am curious about your strength and your abilities, but above all how you got that knowledge from us, said Cao. Easily with my human path, although I must say that killing to get information is annoying, although my Tsukiyomi is more effective if it were torture, said the brown-haired man calmly. You kidnapped my mother? What do you intend to do with her? Kunu asked. Your mother will have to help in our experiment, Cao said with a smile. Are you experimenting? Kunu said incredulously. But before that I would like to measure my strength with that god of the six paths, he said with a challenging look. If you wish to die, suicide is a viable option. Take some bleach or hang yourself by your own entrails, Issei said contemptuously as he activated his Rinnegan. Give her back her mother. You'll have to do it by force, he said seriously. Leonardo creates anti-magic demonic monsters, after that several strange monsters appeared. In Issei's mental space. Shukaku and Matatabi looked at each other, nodding and looking at the others who apparently agreed with their idea, although Kurama was in conflict. Out of Issei's mind space. Issei was preparing to destroy the anti-monsters with a Shinra Tensei when he felt a whirlwind of sand begin to emerge from his back and it began to lift him along with Kunu and his guards. Slowly it took the form of a raccoon, or rather a sand tanuki with black details on it. It's time to fight, Shukaku the one-tailed Biju on the scene, the powerful Ichibi enters action, shouted Shukaku with quite a bit of power, while the anti-magic monsters attacked him without even doing the slightest damage. Feel my power, sand coffin, the monsters were imprinted in sand. Sand burial, shouted Shukaku with great strength and emotion, while dark blood wet the sand and it fell where Cao and company were before, who left the place when they saw Shukaku at his best. Kunu was very impressed, and even more so when she saw that she was in the head of such a colossal beast which came out of Issei. She was undoubtedly very excited and felt that now they could rescue her beloved mother. His thoughts were interrupted when after a strange vortex, they were sucked into a pier in front of the Niju Castle, where the members of the hero faction were, and some colossal beasts created with Annihilation Maker, forcing Leonardo's sacred gear with Georg's spells, who was trying hard to create 9 enormous beasts with Leonardo's help, while Yusaka in a kind of trance, was behind Cao. However, nothing would await them for what they would see. From Issei's back a blue flame came out of it as it grew until it was the size of the Shukaku, taking the form of a two-tailed blue cat. The Nekomata, then water swirled from Issei's back, and next to the blue cat, a shell began to form where a colossal three-tailed turtle formed, then lava formed, and next to the huge sand raccoon, it took the form of a four-tailed red gorilla. One by one the Bijus came out of Issei, except for Kurama who was still inside him, or that was until. Aorg use Yusaka now, Cao ordered. At that moment Yusaka lets out a scream and slowly turns into his nine-tailed form, while the other Baijas fight with the creations of the Annihilation Maker. Then it happened. A lot of red chakra came out of Issei as he lightly took the form of a colossal nine-tailed fox, which was much larger than Yusaka and even the other Baijas. I will take care of the Kyuubi, no one interferes, Kurama said seriously, and then looked at Kunu. I will help your little mom, he said with a smile and jumped towards Yusaka and started to fight with her. What are those creatures? How the hell did they get out of your body? Asked Cao with real doubt and to some extent concern. Issei jumped off Shikaku's head, leaving Kunu in charge as she watched the battle between the two Kyuubi. They are the powerful Baijas or tailed beasts, and they are beings as powerful as a dragon king. They are Shukaku the spirit of the sands, the Ichibi. She is Matatabi the spectral Nekomata of the blue fire, the Nibi, Isobu the giant three-tailed turtle, the Sanbi. They are Goku the king of the wise monkeys, the Yonbi, Kakuo the dolphin mare master of steam, the Gobi. Seiken the colossal slug, the Rakubi, Chaume the rhinoceros beetle also known as the Lucky Seven, Chaume is the Nanabi, Jayuki the bull octopus also known as the Hachibi and friend of Killer Bee, and finally Kurama the powerful Kyuubi no Yoko the nine-tailed fox, and as you can see is the true Kyuubi, said Issei. After that he looked at the battle of Kurama versus Yusaka, seeing how she was being held by Kurama's tails, and then her forehead was touched by two of Kurama's fingers, making Yusaka react, taking her out of her trance. She looked at Heracles. Well? Are you scared? Issei asked as Heracles charged at him, screaming. Don't underestimate us with it. He used a pair of missiles in his fists to attack Issei, generating a smoke screen, while Heracles smiled arrogantly, but his smile fell as soon as the smoke dissipated, showing Issei with his arms crossed with a bit of soot on his shoulder. He calmly shook his shoulder, cleaning it to look at Heracles. You've made me a little dirty, now pay for it. With it he extended his hand towards Heracles and said, Shinra Tensei. Hercules was thrown at colossal speed towards the Niju castle, destroying it instantly. Issei saw how Jean launched herself towards him with a sword in hand, so with his sacred gear, he summoned the Kubakirabacho and easily destroyed Jean's sword and managed to knock her down with the flat part of the sword to take out a chakra bar, impaling her on the ground, while he used his black path to leave her without strength and then used the human path, taking out his sacred gear and killing her on the spot. But Fury Siegfried launched himself towards Issei with Balming in hand, while his other swords were in his arms from his balance breaker, but it didn't last long before crashing to the ground after Issei moved his hand to the ground and then said Amaterasu. After that he screamed in agony and flames as he died. Issei set his gaze on Leonardo and extended his hand towards him and Georg to say, Bansho Tenon, attracting the pair of Longinus users and taking them by the neck to later extract their sacred gear with his human path, killing them on the spot and using Amaterasu to burn their bodies along with Jean's. Cao looked at this in shock. Only 30 seconds had passed and his companions had been killed without further ado. Anger flooded him and he launched himself at Issei with his sacred gear in hand, attacking him with everything only to pass him by without further ado. He entered Balance Breaker. Through Longinus Balance Breaker, Polar Knight Longinus Chakra Valdine. After that 7 black spheres formed behind him, floating similar to Agudadamas. Issei was not far behind, entering the 6 paths mode and 9 Magatamas appearing on his neck and 9 Gudadamas floating on his back. Itsuna Ratana said Cao to disappear and reappear in front of Issei and attack him with his spear, piercing him in the belly, but again it only passed through him. A power very similar to the Horatian no Jutsu but it is still nothing receives this, Issei said as his arm transformed into a chakra cannon and fired a beam of energy entirely made of chakra. Cao smiled as he saw the attack heading towards him, so one of his spheres appeared in front of him to say. Malaratana, and the beam headed towards Issei, who simply used his pre-top path, absorbing the attack and then looking into Cao's eyes. Tsukiyomi. The moon shone red like blood with the Sharingan reflected in it. The place was completely desolate and there was no trace of anyone except himself. Cao was really worried. In this world I am God. 3 seconds are 72 hours after hearing that he saw Issei with a true Longinus in his hand and himself tied to a cross. He was tortured with his own weapon over and over again until Issei drove the tip of his own spear into his left eye. For Yusaka it was only 3 seconds when she saw her previous kidnapper collapse on the ground. Now she was next to her daughter in her human form to the left of Kurama, watching Cao scream in pain from his left eye, which was bleeding, to see how a bleeding eyeball was in Issei's hand. Live in fear of having committed this horrible sin like the one you've done, Cao, go away. Saying that, Cao was teleported through the fog of the lost dimension that was now in Issei. Soon the chestnut was pulled into his mental space. Issei's mind space. Hagoromo was in front of Issei, who looked him straight in the eyes to tell him. There is a favor I have to ask you, Issei, create soulless bodies for my children and seal them in each one and let them live in this place, said Hagoromo calmly and with a smile. But I'll tell them it was your request, see you later." After that Issei disappeared from his mental space. Back on the outside. Issei looked at the Bijus and told them. "Your father greets you and says to give you a physical human body and leave you here in Kyoto as you wish to look," said Issei. "I want to look like Gaara, but with sand-colored hair," shouted Shukaku. "I want to be like Yujito, but with blue hair and eyes like mine," said Matatabi. "I know a race that resembles you, and I already have an idea of how to do it." "And you're a Sobu," said Issei. "It doesn't matter how much, even if it's the same as Yugura, but taller," said the Bijus. "I want to be identical to Rashi," said Sun. "I prefer to have a body identical to mine, but smaller, is that possible?" said Kakyo. Issei nodded and looked at Seiken, who said. "I want to be like Utakata," he said enthusiastically. "I'm the same as Fu," said Chamei. "I already feel like I'm missing Killer Bee's lousy rap," said Jayuki. Issei looked at Kurama and he just nodded, knowing what Issei had in mind, especially when he saw how Kunu hugged his paw from him. And Butsu Sozo no Jutsu after those 9 bodies were on the ground, alive but empty of any soul. Issei continued to seal them one by one until he reached Kurama. "I wish you the greatest of blessings," Kurama said Issei to seal him in what would be his new body. After finishing he looked at them directly to say. "Those bodies are special since they will never be able to get out of them and they can enter their full Biju mode whenever they want. See you soon." After that Issei disappeared and the fog left them outside the real Niju castle. Issei walked towards the train station and after hiding a little he saw a certain blonde and smiled. Let me know in the comments below if you guys want the next part. Also check out my other video that has been shown and left. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video please like and share this video. And have a fantastic day. Bye.